Hello folks and welcome to our game with myself, Shane Stapleton. As always, I have Robin here beside me, Michael Verney. How are things with you?
Well, I'd like to think it's the other way around, but listen.
I'll tell you what, that head of hair is really taking on a life of its own. It's like a good hurling match.
It surely is. I'll get it. I have a wedding on Saturday week. I'll get it trimmed before then. It badly needs it, to be fair.
Yeah, do you know what? I'd say cutting that hair would be a bit like, do people remember Dumb and Dumber, the time he's getting his toenails kind of clipped and you more or less have an angle grinder going at that hair? I'd say it'd be something similar. Michael, would you preview the show we have coming today? Because we're not going to leave people short.
Yeah, no, brilliant show coming. We've Tommy Guilfoyle coming on at 12:30 to talk through the Clare final between Clonlara-Crusheen. Probably by far and away the biggest hurling game this weekend. And we have Donegal legend Kevin Cassidy coming on at 1:15 to go through the Donegal final. His own Guidora involved. He's obviously not involved anymore, and we might just get his views on Donegal and Jim McGuinness. And he obviously has a fairly checkered history with Jim McGuinness as well, so that should be fairly interesting. And there's low, but even there's not as many probably matches this weekend. Good bit of football, definitely less hurling. But it just seems the inter-county season seems to always be taken over at this time of the year, and all sorts of bits of news and people in the media, and no more than David Herity going to Tipperary, which I know he's going as goalkeeping coach. You've had him as coach with Kula. What was your initial reaction actually when you heard?
Well, I suppose there was murmurings of it for a while, but yeah, I was kind of surprised because, I mean, number one, like I generally wouldn't be looking to get a load of Kilkenny lads involved in the management of the Tipperary senior hurling team, but I did like it's tempered hugely by the fact that I know what he can bring. So I'd be more looking to slag David, as a former coach here with Kula. Like, he was really good. And, like, we were kind of struggling that particular season. Went on to win the county title. I think that was 2019 or 20, whichever it was. So he was really good. But, yeah, I mean, what a challenge, I think, actually, for him to come into the Munster Championship. He's got some goalies, like, if you're to look at last season, Barry Hogan, who's in, heading for a county final replay with Killadangan against Thurles Sarsfields. Rhys Shelley, who was really impressive last year as well. So he's got two goalkeepers vying for a spot straight away, rather than just one lad who is guaranteed to be the goalie. They're two lads who both have talent. He's coming into the Munster Championship to see what that's like. But I'd say the slagging he's going to get wearing a little Tipperary crest there, just in front of the heart.
Oh, that's going to be fun. Yeah. As a Kilkenny man said to me last night, there's no communion for him in Kilkenny anymore. He won't be. I don't know. It's a mad one. I totally get it, and I obviously know David fairly well, but not as well as you do because he's coached you. I get the fact that he's managed for the last 5 years with Kildare. He's obviously managed Dublin Camogie as well. This is probably a chance to maybe go in and learn from Cattle and Bevins, etc. And in a completely different environment, because all he's ever known is Leinster hurling. But like, as regards hurling rivalries, Kilkenny and Tipperary, it doesn't really get any bigger. He won 5 All-Irelands with Kilkenny, 3 of them against Tip. You only have to look at Jackie Tyrrell's book to see the hatred between Kilkenny and Tipperary. I don't know if there's a Tipperary book that fires back the opposite way to show Tipperary's hatred of Kilkenny. But like you'll go on the record very quickly. Like Kilkenny and Tip do not like each other, and I can't see this being well received in Kilkenny, genuinely now. And I know he's only coming in as goalkeeping coach. I think he'd get slagged all right. He could get more than slagged in a lot of quarters, I'd say.
Yeah, but there's no massive rivals, don't get me wrong. But there isn't really beef per se. And I know there's obviously people who are right on the border, so those clubs, they would have particular distaste of the other side of the boundary line. But I don't have any distaste towards Kilkenny. I'll slag them all day, every day. You know that. But, I do have a huge amount of respect there. It is based on that. And, like, the two counties, two cheeks of one arse, really, aren't they? It's Springfield and Shelbyville. It's
in one way, you could say that. And, of course, like, realistically, and I remember Owen Kelly saying this to me last year at some media event, was it for the Munster Co-op or something like that? He just said, like, he's obviously involved with Waterford this year, and you have Tony Brown on the flip of it, Waterford legend, been involved with Tipperary, and he just said, like, once Henry went to Galway, he said all bets were off, like, basically anything was allowed. And I suppose you could say the same about Mickey Hart going to Derry as well. When those type of figures, like, actually, when you're thinking about it, two of the biggest figures in the history of the GA go to manage opposition counties, I suppose anything is possible, and the doors have been open for anybody to go anywhere. I still think he'll take a fair bit of flack, but he will be in the background. He won't be front and centre. He's not going to be on the sideline or anything like that. He's not going to be really in the firing line. But I'd still imagine when he's doing warm-ups with Barry Hogan, Rhys Shelley, etc., there could be a fair bit flying at him from the terraces.
36 and counting, saying it is deep, Shane. But tell me why. Like, is it poisonous as far as you're concerned, 36 and counting? To me, it's not. Harburn 6 says, you just know they'll be playing a big game next year. First tip puck out that goes wrong, Kilkenny will have some pressure on him. Now, that would add to a bit of the enjoyment. Like, this isn't like when Rafa Benitez, previously a Liverpool legend, took over Everton. It was kind of done from the get-go. Or Steve Bruce, who had managed Sunderland, taken over at Newcastle. From the get-go, the fans wanted him to fail. Whereas here, you're a situation where obviously everyone in Tipperary wants the team to succeed. He's not the manager. He's part of the backroom team. He's going to be coaching the goalkeepers and all that. I think, in general, there'll be a bit of slagging, but it won't be bad-natured. I can't imagine him, going to the shop in Thurles, picking up an old Nutrigrain on the way out the door. I can't imagine him getting abused or, meeting anything that's anyway, hostile.
It just goes to show you, though, like from Liam Cattle's point of view, he's got another inter-county manager in his backroom team. And it just goes to show you that you have to ask the question with regards to lads. You might think, he'd never come here. Or just Kilkenny man played against Tip, never come here. Kind of all bets are off now, really. Generally, most people would go anywhere. It is, like, outside of Dennis Byrne transferring in 2003, obviously former Kilkenny captain went on to play with Tipperary. This, to me, is the first time either have gone to either place, if you get me. I don't remember a Kilkenny man being involved with Tipperary before. I don't remember a Tipperary man being involved with Kilkenny before. Correct me if I'm wrong. So, and maybe with Shefflin in Galway and Mickey Hart up in Derry, David will sneak in the back door and nobody will pay too much attention. But I'd say a good few people in Kilkenny will. More so than in Tipperary. I don't think Tipperary people will be bothered at all, really. I think more so Kilkenny people might be bothered. Tip people are thinking, we've got another person with inter-county expertise on board here. He might have worn the wrong crest for a long time, but he's wearing the right crest now in our terms. I think it's in Kilkenny maybe that it might be seen. And I have to say, my initial reaction was, obviously David is very, very outspoken compared to, what Brian Cody would have liked through his era, and even when he finished up and he wasn't afraid to pull back the curtain a bit. But my initial reaction was like, what would Brian Cody think of this? And he'd be just spitting fire, I'd imagine.
You think there'd be a handshake? If we could juxtapose the situation.
I doubt it, to be honest with you, somehow.
Yeah, okay. So I see a comment coming in from 36 and counting again. Look at the coverage of the games during the 60s. Kilkenny player lost an eye in the All-Ireland final, plus the constant SH1T of the home of hurling talking. Well, it is the home of hurling. But, like, do you remember, I think what he's talking about there is it was Tom Walsh. There was a bit of a flake. I mean, I can't remember the ins and outs, but I'm sure someone from Kilkenny will come in and tell me how horrible Tip are. But Tom Walsh lost an eye playing in that game. So, obviously, that would have fed into the bitterness at the time. But you had, of course, 71 to 91 when the clubs or the counties didn't even play. And even through the 90s, how many fixtures did they have in the championship? Like, obviously, 1992. But outside of that, 91 and 92, there wasn't all that many. So, again, I don't think it's poison, certainly not for the younger people.
I challenge you on that now. To me, Tipperary and Thurles and Hayes Hotel is the home of the GAA, where the GAA was founded. The home of hurling is where the first ever All-Ireland hurling final was played, and that's in the great town of Borrick, County Uvalli.
The sports field, is it?
It's actually where Tesco is now, amazingly.
Right. Okay, every little helps.
There you go.
Yeah, anyway, look, I think he's going to be a great addition to Tipperary based on what I've seen from him as well. Like, very quickly after he became involved with Kula, it was very easy to just trade ideas with him straight away. Like, he'd had the tactics board there, as many managers do at this stage, but like straight away you could just chat ideas and whatever. And I think he's a bit of a player's man that way. So I'm hoping for the best. 36 and counting is back again. Imagine some of the Tip lads going down to Tralee and saying, we're the home of football. Haha. Well, we are. Speaking of which, Peter Keane, the former Kerry manager, the talk is that he's going to become the next Tipperary football manager. I was chatting to Shane Brophy, of course, of the Nina Guardian about it yesterday, and we were looking at it. If you were to go from where he is in Kerry, I can't remember the town off the top of my head, up to Thurles, 3 hours, 15 minutes each way. Ouch. That is a serious commute.
That is a fair commute, Cherish. You know yourself, there's parts of Kerry that are nearly like on a different island almost. Like they're so far away, even parts of Cork as well, that are so far away from even Cork City or the likes of Killarney in Kerry or whatever. It would be a fair coup if Tip were to get him. I know it didn't end up as he would have liked in Kerry, but like he in his first year, they were so close to stopping the drive for 5. Okay, it didn't go for them in the replay. You could also say, I suppose, 14-man Kerry couldn't win an All-Ireland in 2019, which is another flip side of it. He managed the Kerry side with an extra man that couldn't win an All-Ireland. But he had 3 All-Ireland minors in a row prior to that. They were obviously beaten after extra time by the All-Ireland champions in 2021. It ended fairly sourly in Kerry. I think he was over the Legion this year. They were beaten in the semi-final of the intermediate. But like, you're taking a guy who had a reputation that was that good and that kind of lofty, that he had the Kerry job for 3 seasons, and for someone like that to be coming in with Tipperary, be a big boost. Now the only thing I'd say is on that, and this is not having a cut or anything like that, but it's not like would say a Paddy or a Jack O'Connor that's coming in that would be is a really big personality. Peter Keane was kind of, I don't know, any dealings I had with him, like, and he's a lovely man, but he was yerring around the whole time, like, and he was just talking out of both sides of his mouth. And I remember there was a press conference one time, and he wouldn't even say, like, James O'Donoghue had a bit of a leg injury, he wouldn't even, it was so vague on information or whatever. But it'd be interesting to see who he brings with him. Be surprised if he was in there, if Tommy Griffin didn't come with him. He was involved with him with Kerry for the 3 years and with the minors for the 3 years as well. And like, you need a lift in football. Like, it's amazing. 3 years since winning the Munster title, down in Division 4 now, like an abysmal Tailteann Cup campaign this year. Really poor. The only victory he got was against Waterford. I think that was by a point. He beat them in Munster as well. I think there was 3 lads on Clifford when he played them. He scored 5 points in that Munster Championship game. So like, things definitely need to be turned around from back and try and get back to some sort of level like they were at a couple of years ago.
Okay, so PWell74 says, there are 6 All-Ireland left to be won in this decade. I predict 2 for Limerick, 2 for Cork. Kilkenny will squeeze out 1 and Galway or Tip the other. Any thoughts, lads? Well, Tipperary have never gone through an entire decade without winning All-Ireland. I know, obviously it was tight there, 71 and 89. But Tipperary have always won an All-Ireland every decade.
They'll have, what are we at, 23? There's plenty of time to win one now. Like, if Kilkenny are going to win All-Ireland, you'd imagine it would have to be while TJ is there, wouldn't you? Realistically, would you be able to win All-Ireland this decade without him?
Well, you just don't know what. There's always some level of talent coming through, but you don't know how many of them will blossom to the level required. But Adrian Mullen, Owen Cody, lads like that are going to very much carry the mantle in the next few years. So they may not be too far away. It's just for everybody bridging that gap to Limerick. I mean, last year, once they got out of Munster, they just made it seem like the gap was absolutely enormous.
How many will Limerick win? So they've won 5 out of 6 now. Just roadmap the next couple of years. What do you think? And I'll say what I think.
Okay. Well, first off, do we think John Kiley's going to stay on for another 6 or 7 years? I know he's only signed a 1-year extension. So is he going to stay on? Like, I think he's vice principal in the Abbey School now. So that should give you plenty of time to work with. Let someone else make the decisions. I'll be the coach at the school rather than the manager. So, like, how old is Kiley? Let me just check here. Like, he's
50-ish.
51. Yeah. So there's no reason he couldn't stay on for another 10 years. Will Kinnerk stay on?
That's another question. And like,
he's only 37, so he could stay there another 25 years, no bother, if he wanted to.
Yeah, but whether he will or not is another story. I'd imagine he has other things that he wants to achieve, and potentially in other sports as well, and potentially on other continents, I'd say too. So it's how long they can keep this whole package together, I'd say, really, isn't it?
Yeah. Okay. Right. So let's make an attempt to answer the question. We're just talking about how many more this decade. Is that what you're thinking?
Yeah.
I think they'll probably win. Okay. So we've got 2024, 25, 26, 27, 28, 29. We've got 6. Oh, I'd say they'll win 3 of them.
Yeah, I think they'll win next year. I think they'll won't do 6 in a row, and they could win another 2 after that. I'd say 2 to 3. Yeah, if I was a betting man, I'd probably say 2.
No, the reason I'd say 3 is Cathal O'Neill, Adam English. Probably just those two names alone, and there's other lads coming. Like I've seen other players that I think are really good also. Viewers, get your comments in and let us know what you think. 1 year extension, ML89 says he wants to go out on a 5 in a row. But what's the obsession with 5? Like, why would it have to be 5? Why not 6? Why not 7?
Well, I think 5 is because it's never been done in hurling, and it would also be doing something like we talk about the big 3, and I know Niall Moran has said it, like that Limerick want to push themselves into the big 4 conversation. If Limerick
there's no room.
Limerick have done 4, right? If they go and do 5, then they've done something that none of the aristocrats have ever done before. None of the traditional powerhouses have ever done before. And I think that's the obsession with 5. And plus, it puts them out on their own, technically puts them out on their own compared against that great Kilkenny team who could only do 4. So I think they'll move anything they have to get 5. And then, listen, their hunger hasn't dipped at all. And as I keep saying to you, for the last 25 minutes of this year's All-Ireland final, they looked as good as at any stage in the previous 5 years. And that is frightening.
Look, Limerick are unreal, don't get me wrong. I think they're brilliant to watch and their matches are brilliant. Yeah, they really do push it towards the edge at times, and I'll always call that out when I think they go over the top, no problem. But I think they're absolutely brilliant to watch. But like the traditional 3, if you will, they're the old money. They're the Man United, the Liverpool, the Arsenal, whatever. They're the established order that's never going to change. And then you've got your Man Cities and so on and so forth. And I'm not saying that because of money, but you've got the Limerick that are the new money. How long needs to go by of their dominance before they're considered, before it becomes the big 4, or, that they're considered totally traditional in the sense of aristocrat? Now, they're obviously very traditional county, but you know what I mean?
Yeah. I don't know, really. I don't know how long has to pass, to be honest with you. And if they did the 5 and then came back, like the great Kerry team in the 80s, Kerry football, they're heralded as much for was it 3 they won after? They beaten by Derby's goal in 82. Cork knocked them out by a score, I think, in 83 Munster final, and then they came back and won 3. And that's what put even more credit in their bank, shall we say. The Dubs winning this year puts even more credit in their bank. Do you know what I mean? They all have 9. So I think if Limerick, and it's funny, I've said this to you before, so not everybody hates Limerick like that now, but they're the team that everybody's trying to cut down, right? So nobody's really supporting them outside of Limerick at the minute. But the minute they lose, all of a sudden, people love the redemption story and they'll buy into them then again. Like I was sick of the sight of the Dubs. There's no point in saying any different, as good as the matches were. But I was totally buying into this year. All of them coming back for that last dance, even though it doesn't look like it. As you said, it looks like it's the second last dance. And you'd buy into, like, Federer was thumping everybody in tennis, and you're kind of getting sick of it, as graceful as he was. Then Nadal comes along and you're like, he can't beat this lad, and you're kind of nearly willing him to overcome this massive obstacle that's there, and Murray and Djokovic, etc. And you're kind of rooting for the fella that you weren't maybe rooting for before that. And I'd say it'll be the same with Limerick. But yeah, 2 to 3, I'd say, in the next decade. But as one of our viewers said there, it's so hard to predict the future until what's in front of you. Traumspieler just says, possible to predict the future. If you asked me in 2013, I would have said Clare would win at least another 2, as most people would have probably. If you asked me after 17, I would have said Galway win at least 1 more as well. If you'd asked anybody after 2017 and they'd said Limerick are going to win the next 5 of the next 6, like, imagine the odds you would have got, like, in their hundreds of thousands probably, realistically.
Liz Howard says on X, Limerick are not new money. The Limerick team of the 30s won 3 All-Irelands. Traumspieler says Limerick are actually even older money than Tipperary et al. If you look at the All-Ireland Roll of Honour in the 40s, Limerick were near the top of the tree. So, but still in all, why is it referred to as the big 3? It is the way it is. But I'm not saying that Limerick haven't absolutely smashed that, but it's to kind of change the perception of the big 3. When does that change?
It's the big 3, and they're the big 3 because they're the guts of 100 All-Irelands between them. That's why. And you can go back to the 30s and the 40s or whatever, but Limerick had so many barn years where Kilkenny haven't really had barn years. Now is probably one of the biggest barn spells they've ever had. Tip have never really had a barn spell. As you said, they've always picked up on All-Ireland here or there, and Cork have always been thereabouts up until this time. It's mad, actually, that you say, like, the big 3 are going through. Take Tipperary in 2019 out of it, and the big 3 are going through one of the worst runs in terms of national titles that they've ever had. You to say Cork are what, 19 years going into next year. Kilkenny are not 9 years going into next year, and Tipper only 5 going into next year. To be fair, but it's a fair whack of time. Like, the guts of nearly 30 years between the 3 of them.
Yeah, look at the last 50 years. Kilkenny are out on their own. There's no big three. ML89, Barclay-Kenny, none of the other big three have had dominance since the 70s. Tip have 6 since 71. Cork have 3 since 1990. Offaly have 4. Clare 3. Galway 4. Limerick 6 since 71. Tip haven't been dominant since the 60s. I'm not suggesting there, because Cork are nearly 20 years away. Can Limerick replace Cork? Yeah, I'm happy to boot Cork out. You see, I don't mind Cork at the moment. It's when they start winning, then you're reminded of how insufferable they can be.
Well, that time is coming soon, I can tell you that. And you like all underage success, and even the 20s this year, the 20s a couple of years ago, how strong their minors have been. All signs would suggest if Limerick are going to replace Cork in the big three, Cork should be, if they nurture the talent that they have, should be unbelievably strong over the next decade or so.
Yeah, Tommy Guilfoyle is having trouble clicking in at the moment. Hopefully we can get that sorted, but I'm not entirely sure if we will be able to. Waterford, their search for a football manager has hit a brick wall. Not a single club has nominated anybody to take over from Efi Fitzgerald. It just kind of shows, like, he stepped down as the senior and under 20 football manager on the 26th of August after 2 years in charge. It's just nobody in the county cares. Like, it's harsh reality. Like, football's dying on the vine there.
Yeah, Efi said himself that he worries that football in Waterford could be like football in Kilkenny in time, where they maybe played in a junior championship or don't play senior football. I think he had 8 training the first night he trained, I think he said, and he gradually pulled the squad together. And he just said that even lads that, even have a small chance of getting onto the hurling squad, that's what their goal is. It's not to play football for Waterford generally. And like I was looking at, did you see that catch Conor Prunty made the other day? Oh my God! And he just looked so hard to stop as well. And he actually used the knee. It was proper old school. Like, he used the knee on his opponent's back. It was brilliant. But you have guys like that and many, many more that are playing hurling, and they're not going to even contemplate kicking football for their county. Funnily enough, Desi Hutchinson's first inter-county foray was with the footballers in 2019, and then he went in with the hurlers in 20. But yeah, I think it's worrying, really. And yeah, I wouldn't be that surprised if, like, Waterford are in a dire state at the minute. You really can't see that changing much, can you? Especially with priorities in Waterford, trying to win a hurling All-Ireland, development of Walsh Park. Like, football is probably win a Camogie All-Ireland even. Development of football within the county looks to be well down their list of priorities at the minute.
Yeah, you got to ask how many young lads in the county are dreaming of winning a football All-Ireland or dreaming of playing football for Waterford. Probably not that many, because of where it's at in terms of the totem pole. You weren't overly enamoured with Davy Fitzgerald's comments this week.
No, I wasn't. He was speaking to the media yesterday. There's a couple of things he just said. This is just what he said about him not being bothered by criticism. He just said, that's kind of going to be there no matter what with me. You'll have people that like you and people that don't like you for their own reasons. Some of them mightn't just be happy with certain ways I've done things in the past, or maybe I've picked players or dropped players or didn't do stuff, and they're going to have a go. That's fine. You know what? That actually didn't bother me at all. I was just bothered because I wasn't getting results. I was taking it personally. Did I read the stuff or go on Twitter? No, I'll be honest with you guys. I don't really give a SH1T what you have to say. You have to write what you have to write. And in fairness to you, you're pretty genuine, and accept that. The nasty stuff that comes, that's going to come no matter what. Like, I'm calling bull SH1T on that, because I was there after the Tipperary game, where the only thing he talked about was all the criticism that he gotten in the previous couple of weeks. So I think he's talking out both sides of his mouth there. I think it clearly did irk him and bother him. And funnily enough, when talking about that Waterford game as well, Liam Cattle kind of took a bit of a quote at something Davy said earlier on in the year, where Davy said basically that he'd picked up a Waterford team that was devoid of confidence, basically from the previous manager or whatever, and he's doubled down on those comments again. He just said, I think confidence was dented before I got there, to be honest with you. I think their last year Munster Championship didn't go well. I think the round robin hasn't gone well for Waterford. As you can see, the last number of years they've been there. The defeats in Liam's last year definitely had an effect, I think, mentally. Like, I don't know. I can't buy into that. Waterford were in an All-Ireland final in 2020, having beaten a load of big teams, including Kilkenny. They were in an All-Ireland semi-final They're in a Munster final in 20 as well. They're in an All-Ireland semi-final in 21, having beaten a load of big teams along the way, including Tipperary, Galway. And in 22, they won the league. And yeah, fair enough, the wheels came off. But earlier in that championship, you're only talking about 2 games. You're only talking about 1 game, really. They were poor against Cork and Walsh Park and were beaten. But you're basically talking about that last game against Clare, where whatever happened. I don't know. But it looked like the towel had been thrown in or whatever. But like, are you telling me that you're like a team is on its knees based on 1 game? I can't buy that. And any Waterford person will tell you that Liam Cahill is probably, like, results wise and the kind of bit of a legacy that he left. Take aside that last game or the last 2 games. He's probably one of the most successful Waterford managers in recent times. Particularly now, if you're talking about taking a team on his knees, he picked up a team that was really struggling. Now, really, really struggling, and look at where he got them to. Within the next season, they're in All Ireland and the Munster final. The year after, they were, consistently one of the best teams in the country. So I just don't buy that. And to me, it looks like, an excuse as to why things didn't go well this year. And I just don't buy it, being honest with you. And I think it's been totally disingenuous to Liam Cahill's reign as Waterford manager.
Yeah, I think we always try to give Davy Fitz credit when it's due. But I think this is probably unnecessary. And when you're pointing the finger at someone like that, you've got 3 pointing straight back at you. People are seeing this, that he's saying those things, and it doesn't wash. Because if you follow hurling to any degree, you will see exactly what you're saying. Liam Cahill took up a team that had barely won a game in the space of 2 years. And I know that there's injuries and suspensions and all that Derek McGrath in his final year and Pádraig Fanning, who did get the team to a league final, that they had in their seasons. But no doubt, if the confidence was ever going to be low in Waterford, it was after that, not the 3 seasons that Liam Cahill had. Fair enough, the championship was, the knockout stages of the league, certainly the league final against Cork, and then the championship, they were not good. They were very bad, and I'm sure he was, we don't need to tell him that. But I would take great umbrage if I was Liam Cahill, especially now when my name is being checked here as well. The defeats in Liam's last year definitely had an effect, I think, mentally. I would be taking that very personally, and I'd imagine he'd be fueling himself for whatever meeting they have next season. Now, the 2 players didn't deliver for him against Waterford this past season, when I'm sure he would have loved to have beaten the Daysha. But that'd be fuel, all right. It should be.
And don't get me wrong, it makes their meetings potentially in the league and championship even more exciting. And we had that
my veins.
Yeah, we had that wag of the finger last year, and it didn't really work out in the championship because Tipperary were just goose by the time they got to Waterford, and Waterford delivered like their best display of the year by a mile. But yeah, I just find it a bit strange. Most people will shirk away from criticising previous managers or whatever, but listen, it adds more fuel to that fire whenever they meet, and they will meet. It's the one guaranteed thing, they will meet in 2024. So listen, you'd have to say there's part of Davy that realises that, and he realises that this is surely going to fuel Tip and surely going to fuel Cahill as well.
But you have to try and fuel the narrative. SSRI says he's got a lot of abuse, though he's bound to be defensive at times. But you would see there's certain managers out there who do have elements of the media on board. Like Davy Fitz does have certain elements of the media on board, and you can see them writing very pro-Davy stories at times. This is the reality of it. You can see other people who've got it maybe in for him, and it's the same for other managers across the board. There are some people who are flavour of the week, month, year with some people, and they're not with others. Like, this happens. It's the reality of it. Same with politicians. In a way, isn't it politicking? The more people that you have on side and talking positively and making the headline, twist the headline so it's a bit more positive about you and the intros and all that, that's what you want as a manager.
There's nothing more political than sport, I would say. I'd say sport is the most political of them all. You only have to look at decisions that are made at club level at different stages. It's all politics. People always say that, and sure, nepotism, one of the great things in the GA is politics. You know what I mean?
Get your comments in there. Who's the greatest politician in the GA? And by that, I don't mean someone who is actually a politician. Cuckoo says, Michael, please get a haircut. You're looking more and more like Flintstones characters every week.
Which Flintstones character had a mad kind of hair? I don't remember too many of them having mad hair, to be honest with you.
What? So there was Barney Rubble, and who was the main lad? Fred Flintstone.
Fred Flintstone, yeah.
You probably look more like the wife, Velma. Well, look, I'm hoping now that it's loud and clear coming through. Tommy Guilfoyle, how are things?
I'm good, lads. Sorry for the delay. The modern technology doesn't suit me. I had to ring my daughter Lauren, and she had to FaceTime me through my wife's phone to issue the instructions to me. So apologies.
Well, James, Tommy, that's a fair effort now to come on today, and I appreciate it.
Well, once I make a commitment to someone like Shane, like I feel like I'd be letting him down badly, like, and I don't want any continuation of any Clare Tipperary, what would you call it, disagreements and stuff like that.
Hey, what's on your air freshener there? It looks like an old truck or something.
Yeah, John Ryan Transport. It's out the road there. He does business with me at work there, so free plug for John.
Come here. We were just talking there about people being involved with different counties, with like Davy being involved with Waterford and the comments he had about Cahill's Raid. We were talking about David Herity being involved with Tipperary. Is there anyone who, if they got involved with Clare, and for example, Ken Ralph, Tipperary man, even though he played club there in Clare, like, is there anyone who you'd be like, no, we couldn't have them involved with Clare?
I don't know. I think, you have to put the person aside and think if it's, if he's the man for the job, I think, and he has, he comes with a reputation, I think we should go with him. And maybe that's what we're missing, for the last couple of years, maybe a fairly experienced outside coach with a good track record. Look, I don't think anyone in Clare would hold it against that we couldn't have someone from Tipperary. Look at Len Gaynor did great work for Clare, down through the years, and Eamon Cregan has been involved, and Sean Tracy, being a Galway man, has been involved there for the last year. So I wouldn't think it's there nowadays. Maybe with supporters, but I think if the management think it's the right fit, I think they should go with it. And all players want, I think, is that that they have the best man for the job in place.
Are you? What's the Clare Championship been like so far this season? Just for people who don't realise what the fixtures are this weekend, you've got Clonlara against Crusheen on Sunday at 2:00. But actually, funnily enough, tonight Ballyea Aina Kilnamona, which some people might have predicted would be the Senior A final, it's on tonight as the Senior B final. Strange that it's on a Thursday night.
Yeah, no, it has been called off due to unavailability of pitches. So, that's called off tonight to be refixed at a certain date. Look, I'd say, lads, the championship has been, to say the least, unpredictable in Clare, in the sense that at the start of the year, we would have had what we consider to be, Aina Kilnamona, 6 Mile Bridge, Rogue, Ballyea, all failing to make it to the last four. I think the last four teams that made it, I think, with the bookies prior to the championship would have been 20-1, Clonlara 50-1, Feakle 60-1, Scariff and 80-1, Crusheen. So, like, very much unconsidered. We had the situation where the Clare League winners ended up in beating Clarecastle in the relegation final. So it's all over the shop, really. But I suppose it's a sign of the changing superiority in Clare, I suppose, where the bigger clubs with the bigger picks, would have been expected. But and now in saying that, 6 Mile Bridge second team are in the intermediate finals. So, all is not lost in the Bridge, but I'm sure they would have been preferred to be playing the final Sunday than the intermediate final Saturday. So the changing of the guard definitely in Clare. Clonlara probably re-emerging. Scariff emerged as a serious threat. Feakle, my own club, would have been, thereabouts, maybe up 1 year, down the next year. And then Crusheen probably would be in a team in serious transition. But I think on form, the best two teams have got to the final, albeit they ended up from the same group. The two of them were in the same group with 6 Mile Bridge and O'Callaghan's Mill. So, Crusheen qualified on winning one game. Ballyea on 2 points. Ballyea had 5 points in a 5-team group and failed to qualify. So, it's hard to comprehend that. Like,
yeah, there were some mad scenarios with points and scoring difference. Obviously, it was controversial enough. But just on Crusheen, Tommy, I was chatting to Michael Brown the other day. He was manager when they won in 2010 and 2011 as well. He was in. By all accounts, he was in retirement and enjoying a bit of cycling and a few bits and pieces when the players came to the executive to see could they get a Crusheen manager, and he headed up a committee to get a manager and ended up in there himself, as it often happens. But just talk to me a bit about Crusheen, Tommy. They've really come from left field this year. A lot of the old stagers from the last good while, like Keane Dillon, Donald Toohey, Jerry O'Grady, club chairman, still going strong at 41. They've been a remarkable story this year.
They have, yeah. And again, probably with a good lot of younger guys, but coming forward from maybe, not winning A championships, playing probably in B and amalgamated with Tubber at underage, so for the last couple of years. But in Michael Brown, I think they have a very quiet, kind of a shrewd manager. They've involved some of their former players, Garrod O'Donnell and Pat Vaughan, who would have played for Clare. And then they went and got, I think, probably the man that's making them click at the moment is probably, Aidan Hart. Probably not a lot of experience at training senior teams. Would have been involved with St. Joseph's Tulla winning the Harty Cup, and going forward, I think is involved with the Clare 20s. So I suppose they have brought a freshness to it. Now they would have admit that they have rode their luck along the way, and I think they qualified for the quarter-final at 6 Mile Bridge's expense on one scored point. So, but I think that in any season, I think the turning point sometimes can either go for you or go against you. I think they played Clonlara in the last round of the round robin competition, and basically I was at the game and Clare FM did it, just failed to turn up at all, struggled to score, and all seemed lost. And then the drama started, and in fairness to the Crusheen chairman, I think Kieran O'Donnell had about, he read the small print on the changing the scoring difference, and they went from being out on score difference to getting through on score difference, and they haven't looked back since. So that has been a major turning point there. They came up against a fancied Newmarket team, got 3 goals in the first half, and just swept Newmarket aside. And then in the semi-final, Scariff would have been the big form team. Just never allowed them to settle, did what they had to do. They nullified the threat of Mark Rogers with lacking the supply going in there. And again, very comfortable winners against Scariff on the day. So they find themselves in the final. They're a club that have been, a very proud tradition. Always give 100%. They have some good up-and-coming hurlers. Ross Hayes at centre-back, Breffney Horner and Luke Kettler wouldn't be great Crusheen names, but they've come up through the ranks. So, and then as Michael said there, all the experienced guys in the background. So it's a nice mix, good management team, and I'd say they're looking forward going into the game as underdogs on Sunday.
Just on Clonlara, Tommy, like I would have looked at Clonlara from the outside over the last decade, and I would have been thinking, I know the Bridge were strong, and I know Ballyea were strong, but I would have been thinking with the personnel they have available to them that they're underachieving big time here. But they seem to have got it all right this year. From looking at games and looking at seeing how like what's changed with them this year. I know John Conlon said they were in the dressing room last year after winning the Senior B, and they were kind of half celebrating, and he just said, hold on a second, lads, like we're totally underachieving here, where we should be winning Senior A titles. What's kind of clicked for them this year?
Yeah, would you go arguing with John Conlon in the dressing room, would you?
Probably not.
I think it's the sum of the parts this year rather than relying on any individuals. They've been very consistent. One thing that has been leveled at them over the last couple of years, they could win a great game and then go out against a team that they should be able to beat and lose. But their consistency, I think their work rate and their intensity has increased, 50-60% in where it had been for the last couple of years. And they've had the nucleus of a good team coming through, which was a matter of those guys, they won a minor championship a couple of years ago. A lot of them have come through now and probably are not burdened with the past teams. They're out to make their own identity. And they've really, really been the team of the championship in Clare, ably led by, John Conlon, Ian Galvin up front. But Colm Galvin is playing a key role, at wing forward there. Last year, he did the Clare final with us on Clare FM, and I spoke to him after the semi-final. This year, he'll be preparing for the county final. He had retired for all intents and purposes, so big turnaround for him. But, Clonlara, a very progressive club at underage and that, and it's no surprise, but I suppose maybe it may have come a bit too soon, maybe in people's eyes, but no doubt the two best teams are in the final based on the quarter-final, semi-final performances.
Tommy, like you were talking about there being no pitch tonight for Ballier against Dyna Kilnamona. What's the state of pitches? Like, will Cusack Park be okay? I was at a final there 6 or 7 years ago, and there was an absolute downpour. 6 Mile Bridge won that day. That pitch is well able for it, is it?
It is, yeah. And again, I'm just looking at the fixtures there this morning. I wouldn't be too sure if the intermediate final will go ahead there Saturday. They may move that out of there to save the pitch for Sunday, but I think Sunday isn't the worst of the days, I think. And but I think from here now to Saturday, there's a lot of rain, so I'd be doubtful if that intermediate final goes ahead there Saturday, not unless there's a big improvement. But yeah, no, I think the pitch can take it, but it's the amount of water. I think, in fairness, for the Crusheen or the Clonlara-Rogue quarter final that was on Tina G, I mean, let's be honest, I'd say only for it was televised, I'd say the match would have been moved or definitely cancelled, because there was a deluge between the two quarterfinals on that day, and no way it should have gone ahead, I don't think. But let's hope, again, it's going to be a big factor, the weather at the weekend in relation to all the county finals. And, I looked at a good lot of them there last weekend, brilliant sunshine, brilliant pitches. This weekend, something different. So, it's a lottery in relation, but I suppose for both teams and indeed all the supporters, they'd be hoping for, fine weather, and that we will get a fine open game, which I think both clubs in Clare are capable of producing.
Tommy, you might just move over to your left a small bit there, just as we're chatting to you. How do you see it going? How do you see it going when push comes to shove? When Crusheen have gotten to that stage, they've generally been hard bet. Clonlara, yeah, well, they've been beaten in a couple of finals. How do you see it going?
Yeah, no, I think if Clonlara perform, I think they win by a couple of points. I think they have a lot more scoring threat than Crusheen have. I think if the Clonlara backs don't foul, I think they don't have a marquee forward up there now. Breffney Horner has been playing very well and is scoring both from play and frees. But I don't see him getting the time and the space that they got against Scariff. I think Scariff maybe were a bit stage struck maybe and probably stood off him a small bit. Whereas on the other side, Clonlara put up 24 points against Fecal the last day, and John Conlon didn't score. So, they're not relying on John Conlon to get the scores, but they have a fair spread of scores. And indeed, they got probably the big problem for Fecal the last day was that John Conlon and Ian Galvin were the two we were watching, and Colm O'Mara and Aidan Moriarty got 10 points from play from midfield. So I don't see him getting that time or space. And I think what Crusheen had over Fecal from the semi-final was they have more pace and they've had more athleticism to match Clonlara's. I think Fecal struggled there. So if they can get parity there, they have a chance. But I would give the nod to Clonlara with a greater scoring threat to regain the Kennan Hamilton in Clare.
And even beyond that, we have a comment here saying, can Shane explain to Tommy how he thinks the Tip champions beating the Clare champions is a foregone conclusion? Wouldn't say I quite said that, but I do feel like whoever comes through Tip, Kildangan or Thurles, especially being at home, will have a right good chance to get into a Munster final. But the Clare winner will probably feel the same.
Yeah, and again, I suppose it's something that the Clare clubs have done well over the last couple of years, and maybe Tip haven't, and that's basing it on that for whatever reason. Look, that's for another day. But I think Clare teams, once they win the championship, kind of the pressure is off and they can go out and perform. But I would say, Shane, I would agree with you. The Kildangan and Thurles would be probably way more experienced and seasoned team than Clonlara or Crusheen, but I'm sure neither of the Clare teams are looking to that. Kildangan and Thurles have to do it all over again. So I think Clare teams look forward to playing in Munster. But yeah, I would agree that the Clare champions would be up against it based on what I saw last week in Thurles from Kildangan and Thurles. But look at those championship matches. Once off takes on a life of their own. I'm not sure where's that game on. Is it a home venue for Tip, yeah. Shane?
Yeah.
Yeah, and again that has to be worth a couple of points. But I'm sure, look, Crusheen and Clonlara aren't looking any forward the next Sunday. And I think, if and when they get through, they will cross that hurdle when they come for it. But no, I would agree with you, which people might sound agreeing with Shane Stapleton and Tipperary. But no, I think they have the Tip champions would have the greater chance, particularly at home.
Yeah, I just setting Tip up for a fall, as I often tend to do by mistake. But hurling 1, 2, 3, 4.
But
Tommy.
I don't want to be party to that now, Shane. Look, everyone is entitled to their opinions. Isn't this what it's all about?
Absolutely.
You make your judgment on what you see. Now I see Verney smiling in the background. He's looking for me to have a go at you like I did the last time. I'm not going to bite, Mike.
There's nothing sure, Tommy. I'm just waiting in the wings.
Tommy, we have a question.
Yeah, no, but
sorry, go ahead.
Sorry, you're breaking up there, Shane.
Okay, sorry. We're just saying we have a question in from a viewer asking, who was the number 13 from Clonlara with the curly hair, a Clare minor last year? Do you know off the top of your head?
Say that again, Derek. Or Shane, you were just breaking up there, please.
So was the number 13 for Clonlara with the curly hair a Clare minor last year?
He was. Dermot Stritch, he's probably, really has added to their forward line with the pace that he brings and the movement. And even though it's his first year, his debut season, he hasn't been found wanting. So he is one to watch. As I said, he's probably only 18 out of 17. So he is a good prospect. But and he's probably well looked after there with John Conlon and Ian Galvin, which will do him no harm.
And like you, I was there at some of the Clare underage games this year, including the All-Ireland final against Galway. Do you feel confident of what's coming through with Clare in the next year or two? Even the 20s have had some good performances in the last 2 years.
Yeah, it's a question. If I get a couple of minutes at work, we just have a chat to see, who puts their hand up, and probably not too many, to be quite honest, in my own opinion, than what we already have there. One guy, he was brought into the panel after the 20s championship last year there. Sean Rinn from Aina Kilnamona has been very impressive, for a disappointing Aina Kilnamona team. But other than that, a lot of those under 20s were in last year, at one stage. Now, Keith Smith would have played some league. Ian McNamara, John Keneally probably, will probably be pushing for a starting place. Clare, I think, are going to have to learn from their mistakes last year, the Clare management, and not blooding players throughout the league. And, we saw what happened with when Conor Cleary was out. We didn't have any ready-made replacements. So, they're going to have to sit down and look at players and give them chances. But again, Clooney Quinn would have a lot of players. I think Jack O'Neill would have been a guy that probably I'd expect maybe to make the Clare panel, maybe an extended panel at this stage to further his physical development. And Mark Rogers, will be a year older. But then again, look at some people spring up. I suppose I think I've heard Cian Nolan, who was played that Munster final, isn't available. He's going to go travelling. So there'll be lots of opportunities for guys. Probably the Clare management will only getting their heads together there now, with the replacement of Sean Tracy and James Morden with Brendan Bugler and Tomas Corbett there. So they'll probably be having a final check. They've gone around to a good lot of the games, so I'm sure they'll be looking for guys. And it's one thing that, that Lohan always looks for first, and it's guys with character, guys with strong-minded people. Then the hurling will come next. So it'll be interesting to see who's let go and who's brought in. I suppose that'll be coming together there mid to late November when teams can go back training.
And what's the reception been like for the changes in the backroom team? And for example, Brendan Bugler, who Michael had as a coach with Burr.
Yeah, I think it was probably felt that it would have been a shake-up needed in the backroom team. Brendan Bugler has been involved with the 20, so he.
You've muted yourself there, Michael. I think we've lost him, so I'll just I'll just kick him from it there for a second. Maybe he might just click back in. But yeah, he was given a fair old insight into Brendan Bugler. I suppose you've already given your tuppence worth. You're expecting good things.
Yeah, and I expect one more face in the backroom team as well. Maybe another coach over the coming weeks too. Potentially an outside coach as well is kind of what I'm hearing. And maybe even after the county final this weekend. But yeah, I think probably did need a bit of a shake up. I just kind of felt that, I said it to you before, I just think there were things that were missed maybe in the All-Ireland semi-final, and there were probably things that were missed in the Munster final as well. Little small, maybe things where you need people watching from afar and making a call and something maybe that you wouldn't see as clearly on the sideline. But yeah, I'm looking forward to that Clare final this weekend, going down to it. Yeah, I was sneaking suspicion Crusheen will make it very, very difficult for Clonlara, and the 9 points that was between them when they played in the group. Don't
you
expect
would say that though, wouldn't you? Because you're looking to have a pop at Clonlara again, of course.
No, and I'd be only delighted if they go over the line for the talent that they have. You want to see the best teams winning realistically, and I know they've lost a lot of lads. They've lost the O'Donovans and Dara Conan, and even I don't think Tots O'Connell is playing this year either. So they have had a fair turnover of bodies. But obviously John Condon and the Galvins still kind of leading the line there. No, I think it'll be very, very tight, very, very tight. 1 or 2 points either way, and I wouldn't be a bit surprised if Crusheen edged it. If it's, you see it so often when teams play in the group stages, and one team delivers a fairly comprehensive performance, all of a sudden they play again. The other team has everything to prove and the bit between their teeth when they meet again. And Clonlara, they're going really well, really consistent this year, maybe compared to other years. But Crusheen will have looked at that game forensically, I'm sure, and seen exactly what went wrong. They've completely turned around their season, and I'd say they're a completely different team than when they met last. And I know that was only at the end of August, but they've been comprehensive enough in their game since then.
Okay, well, I just sent a message there to Tommy, thanking him very much for coming on the show, and we were just about to finish up with Tommy, so that was excellent there. So that should be a good final. Like, I think everyone is expecting it to be a simple arm wrestle. Like, to be fair, after the win over Scariff, we had comments in from the likes of Adrian McGrath, the Scariff man, saying that Crusheen's quality of hurling was very good on the day. So I think we can expect a good quality final there, and hopefully the pitch holds up okay for it. Because it is, like, it's going to be an absolute minefield in terms of across the country. What sort of conditions are these teams going to have?
Yeah, well, that quarter final that was broadcast on TG Carter, there was water everywhere that day. So, like, it's amazing. The water table is so high in Ireland that it could be dry for a week and it rains for 1 day. Like, it could be bone dry for a week, it rains for 1 day, and the water's on the surface straight away. And I see it at the farm at home. You can have 2 months of really windy, lovely weather, sunshine, and rains for 2 days, and there's water on the surface. And it looks like sure, look at Shane, the video going around to the Sarsfields GA Club in Cork. Like, oh my God. When we were doing geography in school, it was always said to us that one of the effects of global warming would be that by 2050, low-lying regions like Cork would be underwater. So there's a lot of places low-lying at the moment that are really, really struggling with the storm at the minute. But those facilities are in bits at the minute. And there's some amount of work to be done to fix them up over the next while whenever they do eventually get rid of all that water. And it's amazing, 2 days after winning the county final, and their club grounds are absolutely destroyed. So I'm sure they'll be doing a bit of fundraising and doing whatever they can to try and make sure to get everything back to the way it was beforehand.
And the Ballygunner coming in a few weeks. I saw them posted online saying, and there was pictures of basically the pitch and surrounding areas. It says, we'll be forever proud of our senior team on Sunday, and today's SARS Hurling Club experienced heroism in the form of our pitch committee and volunteers. Although we wanted to ensure we could limit the damage to the clubhouse, we made the decision to open the 2 large gates behind the bar area and at the end of the pitch. As a result, our main pitch essentially became a floodplain in order to relieve the flooding in the immediate Riverstown area, Orchard Manor, and surrounding businesses. We won a county, lost the pitch, but hopefully saved the part of the Glanmire community. So fair play to them there. That is taking a fair old hit GA-wise. Delighted to say now we have the man himself joined us now. Mr. Cassidy, how's things?
Yes, lads, how are you?
We're not too bad at all. Michael, do you want to jump in?
Good. Kevin, thanks very much for coming in. What's it like? Are you gone from Guido long county final week? I know you still keep busy and you keep fit, but what's it like maybe not being involved this week?
Yeah, it's strange. Obviously not involved with the seniors. We still play reserves and we're in the final before them, but the seniors is just a different animal here. It's just something we've been growing up, aspiring to, and just to see the flags around the parish, and we train along with the lads, so to see the pep in their step this last week or so, it's just been great to see.
Hey, very, very rare that you get someone playing a county final doing media the week of a county final. Fair play to you, regardless of what grade it is.
We're a different breed up here, hey.
Like, how big of a pick do you have? The fact that you're in the senior A and B final, like the senior B one against Ballyshannon, Naas Connell in the A, you must have a very good panel.
We do. In fairness, like the club have done fantastic work, I suppose, this last number of years. But in saying that as well, lads, like I counted the last day I was talking to somebody, we've 6 lads who should be starting on Sunday seniors, but they're either in Australia, Dubai, Canada for work, like some of our top players. So although we have a serious pick, we're still minus some big hitters. So we're depending on these young lads to come through, and they have done this year. And we didn't expect to be in a final this year. We're in the first year of the rebuild, I suppose, under Ronan and Francie, but it's just a massive boost that we're there now.
And what sort of like playing number, like what's the population of the catchment area that you have?
Like in terms of population, we're a big parish scatter. I don't know what it'd be, but probably 3,000 to 5,000 people. But like this year, like last year, maybe the numbers dwindled off. This year, there could be maybe 40, 50 guys at training every night. And like I said, the 2 teams have been training together. And I suppose the 2 of them have driven each other on, because it's all young lads that are in the reserves, and these guys will be 100% stepping up to senior next year. So it's been good competitive environment, and hopefully it's helped the seniors as well.
And like, what made you decide to, play? Well, did you make the decision yourself that the commitment for A wasn't for you anymore, and you decided to step down to B?
Yeah, after we lost, I think it was the 2020 semi-final. I just thought that yourself, the body's not what it is, and I kind of stepped away, and then I came back and played a wee bit of reserve last year, and I gave the whole year this year. It's just really to help the young lads, because like if that reserve team that we have is laced with young lads that are 18, 19, 20. These boys will go on to play senior, so it's just about giving any bit of help we can,
Michael. Is Michael alive there? I don't know.
Kevin, how long are you at it? You must be playing club about 25 years all told now, are you?
About that 1998, I think we were doing the thing the last day for the programme. I think 98 was my first senior game. So listen, it's great just to be involved down there with the boys. It's all we know, and it keeps you involved with the lads, and it keeps you in good form yourself as well,
What's your sort of sport life balance? Because obviously huge commitment over the years, and even on, I think your Twitter now and again, you put up stuff where you're doing a gym session as well. So how do you balance them over the years?
It's just been always part of, like, to be honest with you, when I came onto the scene when I was probably 17, 18 year old, I wasn't a big trainer. I liked my food and I liked my nights out, but the more you get into the swing of things, it just becomes party. And even when I stepped away from Donegal and stepped away from Gweedore, I would still always keep myself active, because I think it's massive for the head. It's just, after you do a session or a run or whatever it may be, you just feel better about yourself. And like I took the decision this year to go down from the very start and do the pre-season, because I just think you get so much out of it. And like, as long as the body stays up, it's good so far. So we'll just keep going.
And like, what's the last few years been like for Gweedore in the championship? Because Naas Connell have won 3 out of the 4. St. Eunan's have won the other. Obviously, you got to a final in 2019, came up a little bit short there. So it's probably been a frustrating couple of years.
Definitely. Like, I suppose you go back to 2018-19 when we won the Donegal, and then we won Ulster, and then we were beating the final in 2019. It was a young side, so we thought that we were going to be thereabouts. But like I said, like Eamon Collum, fantastic full forward. He's out in Dubai working as a teacher. Naisha Whale, pocket rocket. He's in Canada working. Or McFadden Ferry's away to Australia. So when you lose those type of players, it does hinder, your progress. So we're just blessed that we have good young lads coming through. So like I said, it's massive for the parish to be in a final.
And to go back to that season that you last won it and major burst into Ulster and won that as well, just that Corofin game, when they were battering teams left, right and centre for an awful lot of their run of 3 in a row. God, you got fierce close, came up short by 4, but you gave them some rattle that day.
We did, and you know what? It's probably one that still hurts, because maybe in the off season we sit together in a bar and we kind of chat about it sometimes, and I think we left we left some things out there that we didn't do that we could have done. But listen, Corofin were a fantastic team, and we just didn't get our chances that we needed to get, and we thought then maybe with experience we get back in 19. But this Glenties team came along and they beat us in 19, and that was really the end of the road for us.
Michael,
you talk about doing things differently up there, Kevin. I don't think I've ever seen a provincial winning team calling out their All-Ireland semi-final opponents from a bar.
No, that was a bit different, all right. But anybody who knows us, we don't take ourselves too seriously. I think we just enjoy the moment. And listen, I don't think there was any major harm. I would know a lot of the Corofin boys, and I would have spoke to them after it, and they enjoyed it as well.
Yeah, you need that kind of
stuff.
Just
on that as well, where would you rank that? Where would you rank that couple of months with Guido in your career? Myself and Shane have both been lucky enough to win things with our own club as well. And there's really nothing like it. As you say, you could be in a pub in 25 years' time with those same lads, and you'll always have those memories. They're unbelievable times.
Yeah, 2018, I won 3 senior championships with the club, and 2018 was special, not because we just won Ulster, but it was just the whole campaign going into Ulster. And I remember we went up to play our first round game up in the Falls Road in Belfast, and it was such an intimidating atmosphere. Just moments like that were unbelievable. And it's not about the celebrations or the winning. I think it's the Tuesday, Thursdays down in Maragallon. We should travel to Oma. There was a certain hotel we used to stay in to do the pre-match talks, and all those wee things will just stay with you. And when I drive past that hotel now on my way to Dublin for work or whatever, it brings back fantastic memories,
Yeah, and are there any games that really stood out? I'm just looking at your run through Ulster, for example. You beat Carrigan, you beat Crossmaglen. I mean, what a victory that was. Scottstown, and obviously we've already mentioned Corofin, but is there something that stood out along the way? It doesn't have to be even to do with the match, even just the booze up you had around it or training.
I think that, like I just mentioned there, I think the one that, because we'd never spoken about Ulster, Donegal was the 1-1, and then once we won it, then we went into Ulster, kind of seeing what would happen. We would throw up to the Falls Road, and I don't know if you've ever been up there. I think it's St. John's pitch, you call it. It's really, really intimidating, and the crowd were right on top of us. And I remember we were well ahead, but they came back, and then we got a free out towards the stand, and our cornerback James O'Beal, he came up and he had it left footed free about 40 yards, and it sailed over the bar. And I just remember looking at each other and then thinking, "Jeez, lads, you know what? Hey, we could give this a rattle." And then listen, once we got Crossmaglen, the name was enough for it to get us up for the game,
Yeah. And okay, just moving on to Donegal then at the moment, where it's been in the last year or so, there were times when it looked like it was desperate. Things settled down midway through the championship and you're thinking, okay, there's the bones of a decent Donegal team here. Things have gone on the way they've gone on. Jim McGuinness is back in charge as well. It's been a fairly, I suppose, whirlwind 12 months for Donegal football.
It has been, and it's been disappointing to see because a lot of players stepped away from Donegal who should have been playing. My own club mates maybe stepped away. 1 or 2 or McNeilis didn't play. The 2 O'Donnells and St. Eunan's, who are probably 2 of the best forwards in the county, didn't play. A lot of injuries. And then the whole fallout with the academy and county board. So now, we've always had good players in Donegal. So now that Jim's back in, it brings that all together again. And from what I'm hearing, all of those boys are back, and they're back up in their programs, and they're ready to go for this year. So we'd be hopeful that we'd be thereabouts.
Was there an instant buzz, Kevin, once Jim was announced back? I think he needed somebody like that, just the way things had fallen. He needed that, and it looks like he's got an instant hop already. And it's very hard for people to say no to him, I'd say, as well, in a way.
Yeah, definitely. Once the management team stepped away last year, you already heard rumblings of players maybe heading to Australia or taking a year out. But as soon as Jim was announced, that was, we had boys coming back from Australia, and we even benefited from that in the club here because Darragh Wheel was in Australia and he was supposed to stay there for the year, and Jim got the job, and next thing he was back in the flight for 2 weeks' time. So we're lucky we have him this weekend.
And what do you make of Mickey Hart going from, obviously from Louth, but to the rivals of Tyrone in Derry?
Yeah, it's crazy. I'd be good mates with Muggsy, and I know what Muggsy's take was. Listen, I know the way Mickey was treated in Tyrone. Maybe he felt he was pushed out, and he's got a point to prove. And at the end of the day, it's his decision. Would I do it personally? Probably not. But it's everybody to their own.
Yeah, because we often talk about. Well, we've been talking already today about. Are there certain counties where you would not accept a manager, no matter how good he is, if he's from another certain area. You see the way like Rafa Benitez, he was more or less run out of Everton as soon as he went in. Is there any county that you would just absolutely not get involved in, or someone from another particular county where you're like, not for Donegal, no way?
Yeah, I suppose the county thing's a different thing, because I never went down the coaching route or maybe managing underage teams with the county around, but I'm just referred to the club, and there's no way on earth that I would be able to stand on the sideline and manage against my own club. I just couldn't do it. So that'd be similar to Mickey Hart and the time that he had with Tyrone. I don't know how he'll feel, to be honest, if he's standing in Derry play Tyrone, and there's a good chance that'll probably happen the way the two teams are going. So again, I know we love Gaelic football and we want to be involved, but like sometimes you just need to maybe look at the bigger picture.
I had to manage against Coola this year in my first championship match over another team, so I know what it's like. I know what it's like. Michael?
Just Kevin, on Jim, what would your relationship be with Jim now? And we're all bridges mended since 2012, or what's the scenario now?
To be honest, I think I've seen him once since 2012, believe it or not. I think the only time I've seen him was an All-Star trip we were on after that in New York. Our lives wouldn't really cross paths. Like I said, like I follow my own club, but I wouldn't be heavily invested in following club football here in Donegal or different things or underage or stuff. So maybe Jim would be involved in those circles. So listen, there's no bad blood or anything. There's times, whatever happened, the past happened, and like I'm still a proud Donegal man. Like if Jim goes on to win the All-Ireland here with Donegal, I'll be the first man he'll be congratulating him if I see him.
That must have been a really weird one, the time he was doing the interview with TG Carter and you were standing there like 5 yards. Like that was one of the most crazy scenarios I've ever seen.
It was crazy, and it was unscripted. It just kind of happened. And people at the time gave out about Michal O'Donnell, the presenter, but like, why wouldn't he ask the question? I suppose, like, you know what I mean. The tours were stood there, so I didn't see any issue with that there. And I know maybe Jim took an issue with it, that he was kind of put in an awkward situation. But like at the end of the day, if we're involved in that kind of environment, you know the interest in Gaelic games, so people are going to ask the questions.
Do you think like there's any risk? And I don't mean this. It'll sound loaded. It's not meant to be. But like he hasn't managed an intercounty team for quite a while. Is there any? I know he was involved a little bit with like a club in Louth, Nave Martins, and I know he was involved with Galway a little bit. But is there any chance that the game has moved on a lot and like it'll be a bit of a learning curve for him again?
I don't think any chance the game moved on. The game has definitely moved and has changed and has evolved. Like if you take Donegal's template of just say 2011, 2012. Will it work today? Probably not. The Dubs are just too smart, and they'll play around it, and they'll suss you out, and so will Kerry, and so will Galway. So I have no doubt before Jim took the job, he's confident enough that he's up to speed on what's happening, and I think he'll come with something a wee bit different this time.
Do you think the door is wide open for a new All-Ireland title winner next year? Maybe like Dublin are obviously strong again, Kerry are strong, but maybe Dublin, a couple of their players are coming towards the end.
Yeah, I'm just not sure. I just think that Kerry, Dublin, even Galway are up there, and people say Derry. I don't think Derry have enough to get over the line. That's just me personally. I think the rest are a wee bit below that bar.
Okay, Michael.
Just quickly going back to Sunday, Kevin. How do you see that? How do you see the two finals going? It's a weird one for yourselves as well. You're playing a game. What time? It's at 1:45. The second game is at 4. You'll have time, I'm sure, to get out and get seated in the stand. But how do you see that senior final going? They've kind of been really strong the last 4 or 5 years.
Yeah, listen. There's no getting away from it. That they're raging hot favourites. This is their 7th consecutive final, and you know Martin Regan's done a fantastic job there, and like, you have to give them great credit. And you know they're really difficult to play against, and what they do, although Martin's been there 7 years in a row, sometimes people can get fed up with the same voices. But what he does is he continues to change his backroom team. Like, and if you go back there, they'd some lad from Derry coaching them. I can't remember his name now, but then when they were beaten 2020, I think it was St. Eunice that beat them. You know, he was showing the door, and they brought Barry Dunyan in to coach the team, and then they went on to win the championship. So although Martin's been involved all the time, he's continually changing his backroom team, and I think that's massive for any club. They are, like I said, hot favourites, but I know for a fact our boys will not fear them. and they won't fear anybody. Once we get into a final, we've got a fantastic tradition and heritage here. You know, it's just in our DNA that we should be winning championships. So I know that these lads will relish the challenge on Sunday.
Okay, well, look, Kevin, absolutely brilliant to have you on the show. Really appreciate it. Great stuff as ever. So best of luck on Sunday, and hopefully we'll chat again soon.
Cheers. Thanks, lads. Thank you.
Cheers, Kevin. Good man.
Brilliant to have Kevin Cassidy on there.
You don't get boys playing county finals usually. I tell you that. I wasn't even aware of it. I thought he'd stepped away completely. So it's just great to have him, and pulled no punches as always.
Yeah, no, really, really good. Would you have any concerns about doing an interview now a few days before a match? Let's say you were in a final with Borough on Sunday, even with the second team or whatever. Would it bother you?
No, not really. No, not really. Because it kind of, when they're in the game, you kind of know the score anyway, to be honest with you. So no, it wouldn't bother me at all. Plus, I always thought, I remember doing an interview with one of the boys from Bury. He was playing the Laurie Maher Cup final for Longford at the time. And you wouldn't get a big write-up around that sort of thing normally. And he always comes back to me about the piece or whatever that we did or whatever. It's a nice kind of thing to have, I think, as well in time, to be honest with you.
When before you became a journalist and you were a teacher, you were playing with Offaly, did you ever get interviewed?
Just once, I think. Just once, and it was actually probably before my best ever game for Offaly. It was the week before we played Limerick in the qualifiers in 2008. No, Kevin Egan rang me, local journalist who you know well, and yeah, sure, I wasn't even thinking about what he was saying, to be honest with you. Just saying whatever you feel. Like you weren't. We wouldn't have got any media training like that, so you were just saying exactly what you thought, which is great. Like, because you just say, yeah, I think we'll win the game. I think we have a brilliant chance if we show up. I think we'll win the game. Whereas now you'd probably say, oh, it's going to be a 50-50 game. Don't know, a lot of different things could happen, but hopefully we'll show up and give a good account of ourselves or whatever. Do you know what I mean? It's amazing how different it is. We drew Wiley on here, sure. He was only the year out of Monaghan, and I remember doing an interview with him for the Independent, and it was just like he's saying how weird it is to actually be able to say what you actually think and not have all these kind of cliches in your head that you're supposed to say.
Yeah, you can see the gears turning sometimes when you ask lads questions. Just back to the hurling. Cork's Alan Connolly, he looks set to be fit for 2024 despite a hamstring injury that was in the Cork Echo. He, I think he previously had a shoulder injury and then he had a hamstring issue that limited his game time recently with the club for Blackrock. Also, Tim O'Mahony, he's going to be out till February. Alan Cadigan is the only player who's retired from the panel, but otherwise they look to be fairly strong for next year. But that brings us on to the Cork Senior Hurling Championship A final, which is the second tier this weekend. Blarney against Newcestown. Newcestown, they're in the final of both hurling and football to get up to the top level. So they've got Dohenys in the football decider Sunday, the 5th of November, and then Blarney this weekend looking to get up to Premier. So Blarney, they played Bride Rovers in the refixtured semi-final last week. That was after it was there was an appeal because Bride Rovers had 16 players on the field for a short period of time. Bride Rovers won on penalties, but they had to refix it, and Blarney were very good the second day out. How many teams playing outside the top tier of their county championship would have county players of the quality of Shane Barrett, who scored 1-6 the last day, Mark Coleman 1-3, and Pádraig Power, who we saw have a very good league for Cork Seniors last year?
Yeah, not many. And part of me just kind of thinks that Blarney are on a bit of a crest of a wave. I think Gavin O'Mahony, who's involved, isn't it Gavin O'Mahony that's involved with them? I think it is. Blarney, kind of said that they hadn't done anything for 3 or 4 days after the game as the appeal was going on. And then it's a bit like an Offaly kind of 98 scenario against Clare. You kind of get going. They delivered their best performance of the year by a mile last weekend, and they're just rolling into this weekend as well. You're in a great scenario in the sense that your championship was over. You were out. You've gotten this absolute lifeline. They grabbed it with both hands the first day. And I obviously, I haven't seen many games or something like that, but you'd imagine sometimes you kind of think that the writing is on the wall, that this is, our name is on the trophy almost, the way things have worked out. And maybe that could be the case with Blarney, even though Newcestown beat a good Carrick-Tuwood side, I think, in that other semi-final. But I wouldn't be a bit surprised and be some story. Blarney, who were out of the championship 10 days ago, if they go on to win what's it called, the Premier A?
Yeah. I think, no, it's the Senior A to get up to the Premier A.
Stop now, stop.
Hurling1234 says Blarney missing under 20 All-Ireland winner Dennis McSweeney and their centre back Alan McAvoy. Keep your comments in. Let us know who's out, who's in for the weekend in certain games. We always love to get the inside information from people who are watching across the country. The Mayo Senior Hurling Championship A final, that's also taking place this Sunday. It's a home fixture for Ballyhaunis against Turin. Turin have won 5 of the last 6. They were beaten in the All-Ireland Intermediate final. There's some really good players who are playing at county level, like Carl Freeman, Shane Boland, Fergal Boland. Keith Higgins is going to have to put on a fair old tour de force if Ballyhaunis are going to have to be able to arrest the slide they've had against Turin the last few years.
He is, and the fact that Turin have got that run at the All-Ireland stages as well. Like, Mayo was a real weird one. I don't think the Mayo Hurling Championship started I think it started about a month ago, to be honest with you, and it finishes pretty wham bam because there's not that many teams involved. But I'd imagine Turin are eyeing another run at provincial kind of silverware as well, potentially, and maybe to try and go one better at the All-Ireland stages. They'll get plenty of it at the weekend, but I'd imagine they come out on the right side. And in the B final, it's Castlebar Mitchells against St. Kieran. So there's a lot of I'm not saying either of those are necessarily that new, but there's some kind of newish kind of clubs in Mayo that are trying to kind of spread the hurling gospel a bit more. And like, listen, the more clubs that are playing hurling in the perceived kind of weaker counties or whatever, the better.
Do you know, I look at it last year when Turin beat Ballyhaunis in the Mayo final. That was on the 9th of October. They played the All-Ireland final then on the 14th of January. So you're looking at basically an extra few months of training collectively, which makes just the world of a difference. They had all of October, all of November, all of December, so it's the guts of 3 months of extra training at a really high level where you're guaranteed to have absolutely everybody together. Like, how long did the team have together before they actually played in a county final? So is it like basically getting an extra season collectively together, which gives them a fair old advantage over anyone who's looking to close the gap?
Yeah, you'd imagine it's invaluable. I would say that when they finished their training or their campaign for the All-Ireland stages, the other teams weren't even back for this year yet. So to me, like, that is a big head start, and it's a massive incentive and an advantage if they're able to stay going at provincial, particularly All-Ireland level, because it gets you nearly all the way into the next year. So yeah, it's more kind of contact time, isn't it? More squad time, more training time. Imagine the amount of extra sessions that they've done. Even like, just the fact that you're really looking after yourself for those 3 months, you're in kind of peak condition, because that has lasting effects for the next season that goes on. Less of an off season. You're going to be in better nick when you come back. You're probably training yourself to be in better habits. So that sort of stuff is invaluable. And again, to me, it stacks the deck even further in Turin's favour.
Yeah, Richard Hogan says there's 2 big finals in Kilkenny this weekend. There are indeed. You've got St. Lachtan's against Tullaher Ross Birkin. That's in the junior final this weekend. And then also in the intermediate final, Mooncoin against Thomastown. Mooncoin, obviously, was it the All-Ireland Junior? Yeah. I mean, and who did they beat in that final? Because I remember
was it one of the Cork crowds? Yeah, it was the line ball under the Hogan stand with it from about 80 yards. Mooncoin probably wouldn't be expected to be at the final stage. Ballygiblin, yeah. And they're playing a Thomastown team that, like, they've been thereabouts in this championship for the last 4 or 5 years. I know Henry Shefflin was involved with them a couple of years. Like, they just need to get out of the intermediate championship in Kenny. They need to win this. We'd someone on, Nicky was saying a couple of weeks ago that they don't try not to talk about it in Thomastown. It's that big of a burden on them at this stage. But it's a bit like Tullaroan. Tullaroan were ages trying to get back out of intermediate, having slipped down there. And Thomastown with the Donnellys and John Joe Farrell, they need to get out of there. But they're not going to get it easy this weekend.
Yeah, and Luke Connellan, I think he is or was the county under-20 captain as well. We had him last year briefly with the UCD Freshers, but he ended up leaving the course. He's back this year, but he's actually straight in with the Fitz team. So Fergus Butler says, if Turin win the intermediate, will they then be promoted to Senior All-Ireland for the following year and revive the Connacht Championship? Is it like, so if you look at it, the precedent of Naas last year, that was just winning a couple of senior county titles in a row. And they'd already won the I suppose the provincial intermediate also. Yeah, what would be required for Turin to revive the Connacht Championship? And to be honest, like I'd like to see it. I'd like to see at a minimum a Galway team having to beat the Turin or whoever wins Mayo.
I know at camogie level, for an Offaly club to compete at senior level, having always been an intermediate, Ryan had to win back-to-back All-Irelands for the Offaly team to be promoted to senior. And when Borough won their county last year, they played senior at Leinster, and they'll play senior Leinster again this year. They play Vincent's from Dublin. Like Bray won Leinster last year, to Leinster Intermediate. To the best of my knowledge, they play Leinster Intermediate again. I think you have to win the All-Ireland. I think in hurling and football, it's win the All-Ireland once. For these counties, for the so-called weaker counties, you have to win the whole competition to get senior next year. The problem is that you could win the competition and then not be in it the year after. Do you know what I mean? Just because everything could click on that given year, and then it could be maybe a club that's not ready potentially to play senior the year after. You could potentially take a lot of shellacking. What you want realistically in the scenario is someone like a Naas who won the All-Ireland Intermediate and then are actually ready to compete at senior level and will probably compete at senior level for the next 6 or 7 years. But just say they were beaten last weekend, would Selbridge or would Maynooth or would Coildover, any of these, like, make a realistic dent at senior level? Probably not, but you have an exceptional Naas crop at the moment. So yeah, I think you need to win the All-Ireland to get up to the next grade, shall we say.
There's a question there, guys. Bit random. You might read that out because there's a reason I'll come on to you. I'll come with you next.
Hurling 1234 just says, guys, bit random opinions on intercounty lifestyle these days. I know a lad who played county a good few years back and wouldn't have processed food for over 8 months. Has it gone too serious? No processed food for 8 months is fairly serious now. That's kind of the caveman diet where you're only eating things that came from the ground, realistically, and you're not generally not eating stuff that comes out of packets. What are your own opinions on this?
Well, it's interesting, right? So I was just I had an app downloaded recently and I hadn't registered it, so that's why I asked you to read out that comment there. That when you're like, is it difficult to eat food that's pretty good? So I've got my phone here, right? And what this thing does is it'll scan. So this should actually say it's pretty healthy. It's a bit of vitamin D. I'm trying to keep on top of things. And I just scanned the barcode there now as we're going, right? Will you scan it, you fucking thing? And right, so this isn't working for me. But anyway, basically the point is it'll tell you whether it's good or bad straight away. It'll score it out of 100. It'll give it sort of a red dot beside it if it's bad for you, green if it's good. I saw someone using it last night. We were getting I was getting a bit of like pressed tomatoes or whatever to put into making a bit of a simple old curry or whatever I was making. I was making fajitas. And it was able to score 97 out of 100. So you knew it was good stuff straight away. And, given the quality of cooking that was going on, you knew that it was going to taste well also. But I think it's never been easier to cook healthily if you want, because all you have to do is put your phone up to the barcode of an item and you know if this is good stuff or not. So, yeah, I think the commitment, like there are players that I know that would not eat anything processed. Other lads will be, happy enough to tip away it a little bit. But, yeah, there's more demanded. But because of technology and all that, it's probably easier, even though organic stuff, etc., if you want to go down that route, is probably more expensive. In terms of being able to ensure you eat something good, you fewer excuses.
Organic, as my father says. I don't think it's like, I like eating good food, I have to say, but I definitely think it costs more. To be honest with you, like the foods that are bad for you generally don't cost that much. Like, do you know what I mean? You get a pack of sweets for €1, like, whereas you pay you pay 12 or 14 euro for a steak, like, do you know what I mean? The dear stuff is generally the good stuff a lot of the time. I go for a lot of the own brand stuff now, I have to say. I never thought I would. Even milk, which I thought would be sacrilege back in the day. But no, I agree with you.
You're not taking that straight
I think
out
players
of the
are a lot more educated. What's that?
You're not taking the milk straight out of the teeth.
I tell you what, I used to my uncle and auntie down in Wicklow used to have a milking parlour and used to have the milk unpasteurized, not homogenized, absolutely freezing cold. Gorgeous.
Lovely.
Absolutely beautiful.
Do you know now, when I was coming home from school, or all of us would have been coming home from school when we were kids, the mother would always throw the drum of milk, the 2-litre drum of milk, into the freezer for a half an hour beforehand. Jeez,
there you go. No, but you're dead right. a lot of inter-county players now are able to cook for themselves and whatever, and throw on a bit of a stir fry or throw on whatever it is.
A simple old salad.
A simple old salad. But as Roy Keane says, you can't play midfield in the Premier League, or you can't play midfield inter-county eating just salads.
You certainly can't. It's far more expensive to eat healthily, says Traumspieler. Processed biscuits, pasta, etc. are dirt cheap compared to fresh fruit and veg. Fish is ridiculous expensive considering we're an island nation. I mean, we're the dumbest island in the world if you think in terms of like using what we have as natural resources and making life easier for ourselves. But sure, that's another thing. Traumspieler says, what's the app called, Shane? It's called Yuka, I think. Yuka. And in the past, I used, what is it? MyFitnessPal. I don't know if that's free anymore. Maybe it is free. But I know that you can sort of calorie count on these things. You can sort of like scan in what you've eaten or tell it like, tell them what meal you've had that day, and it sort of adds it up so you can kind of figure out what do I need to eat today, how much protein or whatever, and it'll keep track of it. So if you I
have to say now, that wouldn't be for me now at all, because I think you're thinking about it too much. That's just myself. Like I wouldn't have liked even been involved with teams looking at video footage and stuff too much and thinking about things too much, because I find you actually end up overthinking. And you wouldn't maybe enjoy the food or wouldn't enjoy playing the match as much because you overthink a bit too much. That could be, I see a lot of young fellas now even that are thinking too much about hurling even. Do you know what I mean? Thinking too much about the game and maybe not enjoying it as much. The reason like we all started was because we enjoying it. Because we enjoy it. And that's why I think there's a healthy balance between that kind of stuff. Like I wouldn't, that whoop thing, I wouldn't, not in the month of Sundays would I wear something like that, because I just think you're analysing everything to the nth degree, and I just think nothing is natural then.
Conor Heaney, no fear you lads thinking too much. And look, I was sort of preempted one of my questions to Kevin Cassidy earlier, saying I don't want to load the question, but look at Richard Hogan here. Shane, would you ever manage against Burris? Talk about loading the question up, huh? Nobody wants to like. But there are situations where it could end up happening. Like you might decide, no, I'm never going to manage against Burr, and maybe you'll manage a team in Meath there or something. Maybe you take over Kildalkey. You might end up in the Leinster Championship against them if Kilcormac Callaghy aren't killing everybody.
It's a very, like you saw the thing with Conor Gleeson at the weekend where he was over gold in Kilfeacle, and the one agreement he made when he took them over was that if they played Borland Duala that he wouldn't be involved, and he obviously wasn't involved. You have the flip of that there where I said it to Trevor Fletcher last year, like, would it be weird going playing Kilcormac in the county final? And he just said, if you enlist your soldier, like if you sign up to a team, you go and manage against whoever you come up against. And it happened again in this year's county final, albeit with different fortunes. What was it? Was it Kilcoo? Was it Kilcoo?
Yeah, Jerome Johnson. Yeah, last year.
Yeah. So like, there's nothing sure than with David Herity as well that they will end up playing Kilkenny at some stage next year, maybe in All Ireland quarter final or something like that. There is nothing sure. That's just the way it works out. If you're thinking that chance of us playing against each other are slim, the GAA works in mysterious ways, and they will end up playing each other.
Yeah, I know. Like for years as a player, I never wanted. I never sort of put it in a situation where, hey, look, let's have a challenge match between Coola and Burris there. I never wanted that. Now, thankfully it wasn't suggested to me, but I wouldn't have wanted that. But after managing Whitehall against Coola last year, I wouldn't say I was absolutely torn apart with the idea of it, because at that stage to me, it was just like, this is a job. Everyone knows what's going on here. Just because I'm managing against Coola, it doesn't mean I hate them all or anything like that. Obviously not. Like, they're all there at my birthday a few months beforehand, surprise birthday and everything. Like, they're sound lads. But like, I don't know what I wouldn't want to do it, but like, I don't think it'd be one of these things where I'm, crying my eyes out going to bed over it either.
The thing is as well, like, it's a different story if you're managing against Coola and you're giving it the big one, like, and you're getting in on, do you know what I mean? Like, and you're getting in on top of lads and you're being a dose, like, do you know what I mean? Like, that's a different story altogether.
Yeah. Although it was funny, actually, when we managed him earlier in the year, I was roaring at one of the players. I told him beforehand who he was going to be marking, but there was a couple of changes. And I think Sean Moran wasn't down to start. And I'm there roaring at one of the boys, pick up 22. And, Sean Moran's looking over. Like, I know who he is, but you're calling him number 22, even though you know who he is.
No, well, I've seen lads do that before, because it would get under the player's skin, and I've seen him do it for that particular reason. Pick up number 6. It's like, it could be the best player in the county, because it would actually annoy them if they were if they were in some way not tuned into the game and they were realising what was being said or whatever. Just on the last thing on this as well, I was teaching in Banner for a good few years, and we always played Burr every year. But you do find yourself, I always found myself particularly fired up when we were playing against Burr, because I went to school there, and you're managing against a lot of lads you want to know, and you want your team to do as best as possible because it's a reflection of you. And if they play well, it looks kind of well on you somewhat. Whereas if they're brutal and you get hammered, it looks poor on you. So I would have no problem been not giving it the big one, but I would have been fully behind my team that day, and it never would have bothered me at all who they were playing, really, you know. But even if anything, you were gone up another gear, to be honest.
Yeah. Do you want to read out that comment there from DG?
Yeah, I will, yeah. My club got a manager in, and he came up against his own club. He said no problem when he came in, but then didn't stand on the sideline for the game. The players voted to get rid of him after it. Yeah, listen, if he agreed to it at the time, you're imagining that he'll go through with it when it comes to the time. But when not, then you start to wonder, is he or she really committed to us? Maybe, and it obviously upset them. I have a feeling I know the club you're talking about. And I remember hearing about that in the background a bit, but it probably would upset the players, and it looks like it did.
Yeah, is Gerald Dwyer from Orlahan a brother to Orla in the AFL, women's AFL? Yeah, it's the same Cashel Community School he played with. Was it last year? And I can remember a photo of the two of them after the game anyway. What else have we to talk about? There's Mayo Senior B final is on this weekend. Castlebar against St. Kieran's. That's on in Westport on Sunday. Leitrim final, let's see Carrick against Clonlara-Crusheen. It feels like every year, and we've been doing this show for 5 years at this stage. It feels like that final has been the one mentioned every year.
There's a reason for that, Jen. They're the only two teams in the championship. And it's gas. Like, we are looking at, the final is going to be played on the 22nd of October. There's only two teams in championship, and they're playing on the 22nd of October, which just sounds mad to me, realistically. And I wonder, I think they play in some other counties. Either Carrick definitely play league in another county. It might be one of the Ulster counties. They might even play in maybe Longford. I could be gone mad there. They definitely play in another county anyway. But like, it's a crazy one. They're building themselves up basically for one game. Like, when do they go back training? How many challenge games do they play? What's the scenario around that, really? It's a mad one. If anyone knows, we'd gladly listen.
Yeah, Carrick Hurling have had the whip hand the last few years, but Clonlara-Crusheen, they won it in 2021 and 2016. 2015 was the last time that a team outside of those two won it. That was Ballinamore, Sean O'Heslin's. And actually in 2014, Gert Lettra, they got to the final also. So there just seems to have been a bit of a fall off. I wonder, Ballinamore, Sean O'Heslin's and Gert Lettra, are they still competing or not? You and I obviously don't know.
Might you drop back a grade? Maybe, you don't know. Might you drop back a grade?
Yeah. Okay, the down final is on this weekend as well. Portaferry against Ballycran. That's going to be in Park Esler in Newry. Last year, I'm trying to remember, wasn't it? Was it Ballycran who won it last year? I must check the
I'm just wondering. I think that game has been played. Is it before or after the Shinty? I think the Shinty is live on TG Carter this Saturday. 3 Offaly lads involved. I think Ben Keneally, Owen Cattle from my own club, and Killian Kiley is had a couple of good days after the county final last week, and actually said in an interview that he was going to mind himself for the Shinty this weekend, and they're obviously playing in Leinster for a couple of weeks' time. I think it's actually could be on RT. It's a Saturday night down in Wexford Park against Naas. But the Shinty's a real interesting one, because it's so alien. The way they play is so alien to how hurling is played now. Hurling is a possession game, whereas Shinty is get the ball and whip it as far as you possibly can. Yeah, like we played when we were in 5th year. We went over to Inverary in Scotland, and we played a Shinty exhibition game against a Scottish selection, and it was an amazing experience, I have to say. It was out in the middle of nowhere. I tell you something, if you didn't wear shin pads, oh my God, you would be killed. I still have, in my home house in Borough, I still have the Shinty stick from back then. Like, they're literally unbreakable, nearly. Like, they're just so thick.
Is it like an old man's walking stick with a bit of an old club at the end of it?
Kind of, but there's a kind of a ridge on it as well. And there's obviously, it's kind of like maybe a 1950s or 1960s hurl, except way thicker. some slap of a ball, like if you connect with a ball on the money. Now the sweet spot is obviously like not that sweet. It's small. It's very small. But if you connect on the money, it could be 60 or 70 yards and would absolutely fly. Of course, remember that famous picture of Nicky Quaid standing in the goals for that some shinty game that was played when he was like 11, and he was about a third. The goals are really, really high, and he was about like a third of the way up the goals. An iconic picture.
Okay, so it's just back to the down final. Portaferry, they won it last year, and they got through to the Ulster semi-final where they came up short against Schlockneil, so maybe they'll be favourites again there. Some of the other fixtures in Sligo in the football championship, Cooler Strand Hill are against St. Malas Gales. So Turla Strand had won. Was it 8 in a row they'd won? And we're
going for 8. Going for 8. Yeah.
They're new champions this year. The Tipperary football final, I see Clonmel Commercials against JK Brackens. So Clonmel looking to match Fedard's record of 21 titles, and they do have Oisin McConville involved this year as well. So I'd imagine their eyes are on probably bigger prizes. JK Brackens definitely hit the skids when they got to the final a few years ago. Like, I was at that game, and Clonmel absolutely cleaned them out. But I'd say they'd be feeling like they could be a lot more competitive, even though nobody outside their own camp will believe they can win.
Yeah, but as you say, Clonmel, who did they blitz? Was it Nemo did blitz last year in the Munster Championship? One Saturday night.
Yeah, that was on telly. Yeah.
Yeah, one Saturday night in Páirc Uí Chaoimh, and then I think they came up short in their next game. When you're thinking, geez, they have a great chance potentially of winning Munster here again. But you'd have to say, Clonmel, barring a huge upset, you'd have to say Clonmel are roaring our favourites here. You'd imagine then they do back to back.
Yeah. Okay. And then the Wicklow final, Blessington are against Rathnew. The Dublin second division final in football, Clontarf, they're going to meet Fingallians. So I'm sure Jack McCaffrey would enjoy a title there. Kilmacud Crokes against Ballyboden in the top tier. Geez, that's going to be a tough one to call. Like, Boden got to the semi-final last year, managed just a point in the first half, but they look like a different animal this year. They've been really impressive, and in their semi-final, they came roaring out of the blocks.
Yeah, I was thinking suspicion for it's not a sneaking suspicion. I think Ballyboden could win this, to be honest with you, because Kilmacud, as good as they are, they haven't played anything close to the level you'd expect this year. They fell over the line against Raheny. They fell over the line in the quarter final as well. It was obviously penalties the last day. I know they were without Shane Walsh for long stages. They just don't look to be humming like they were the year before. They kind of remind you a bit maybe of Ballyhale the year they were beaten by Ballygunner in the final. Struggled through Kilkenny against O'Loughlin's in the final. Struggled over Mount Leinster. Beat Rhinus in extra time. They just don't seem to be playing at the same level, and Boden look to have the bit between their teeth. Not sure what the odds are there, but I'm sure Kilmacud are solid enough favourites to say the least. I think everybody would love to, well, not everybody, but we'd love to potentially see Crokes and the Glen play at some stage down the line, but there's a fair whack of water needed to go under the bridge before then. And I think Ballyboden with the Baskels and Michael Darragh McCauley still going strong in the middle of the field might just get the job done here. And I think this could be the first leg of the double.
Yeah, and Warren Egan scored brilliant goal the last day out against St. Jude's. And Jude's have always been so close. I was surprised with the manner of the victory, not the Ballyboden one per se, but just the manner of it. So they're looking quite good. And Crokes, they were very, very shaky against Raheny. Raheny should have put them out, really. And then if that was the case, Ballyboden would be unbackable favourites here. But it could be one of those situations where that was the launch pad whereby Robbie Brennan can get his players in and say, lads, what the hell is going on here? Or else maybe it was kind of the dying kick or the dying sting of a wasp there that they're now at this stage going to get knocked off.
Well, look at the last two county finals. Was it 1-7 to 1-6 against Jude's? And it was really tight against Nafina. Was it a one-score game? Was it Nafina last year?
2 years ago. Am I right? It was Nafina last year. Am I right in saying they didn't score for the first 23 or 4 minutes against Jude's a couple of years ago?
That's right, yeah. Jude's missed a glorious chance. And look at then, Crokes have gotten progressively stronger as they go through the province. And listen, maybe that'll happen this year again. But they're going to get it hard to get over the line on Sunday here first, definitely. And just on Clontarf and Fingallians, I think Paul Flynn is still going strong for Fingallians. So potentially you could have Jack McCaffrey picking up Paul Flynn at some stage during that game as well, which would be interesting.
Yeah, I'm just wondering, remember a couple of years ago, Oisin McConville was involved with Inniskeen Gales. Any idea if he's still involved in this? Or sorry, this is in the final of the Monaghan Football Championship.
One of the McEntees is manager. I think
What?
John McEntee is manager of Inniskeen now.
Okay, yeah, because they're in the county final against Scottstown, who lost the final last year, but won the 2 previous ones before. I'm actually just going to check when were Scottstown not in the final most recently. So they were in it last year, the year before, yeah, all the way back. 2012 was the last time. They were in it in 2011. So Scottstown are more or less a permanent fixture in these finals lately.
Pretty much, yeah. They never won an Ulster, am I right in saying?
I'm pretty sure you're right there.
Beaten by Guidor with Kevin on earlier. Like that was probably the one that got away. Same as the Lomans I always talk about never winning the Leinster. The one that got away was against Moorfield. That time they conceded a goal at the very end. They're obviously out this weekend too, which we'll go into in a minute. But you would fancy Scottstown to get over the line there. Obviously, all that controversy in the semi-final with Scottstown and their physio and against it was a Carduff. Yeah, it was messy situation. But I think Scottstown will just about get the job done. The Hugheses are still going strong. Rory Beggan, obviously. They would have all played in all those finals. There's a fair cohort of them that would have played in all those finals since 2012.
Yeah, and I see Richard Hogan there asking, is there much of a crossover between Ballyboden and Bow Codes? And I'm trying to even think, and let me just check. I'm just going to check the starting team against St. Jude's the last day out. I'm not seeing many in the back line. I'm seeing nobody in the forward line, and even in terms of substitutes, I'm not seeing any crossover. Now, maybe there's one or two there that I just, names that we wouldn't be quite as familiar as, some of the bigger names in the past.
I don't think there ever would have been a huge cross. Like there was like 2 or 3.
You would have had especially when they got out of Dublin, maybe Simon Lambert, Conal Keeney previously. He's not really starting for either code anymore. Shane Durkin maybe at times.
Colin Pascal scored that 3-5 against Coolderry. And I just wonder if they win the county final, will he go back or will he be Crokes back? It'd be a nice man to bring in with 10 minutes to go, even if he hasn't held a hurling 5 years.
Hurling 1, 2, 3, 4. Shane, I see that guy called Derek Harrell played club hurling with Newport in 2016, but the same year played for the Limerick Miners in the All-Ireland against Tipperary. Is this true? It actually was. So his clubmate Keane Flanagan? Yeah, they both played for Newport in Tipperary. And you had Dara, who was born in Kilteely, Drumkeen. He represented Limerick while Keane was playing with Tipperary. So that was quite something.
That's mad, yeah, in fairness. That's mad.
You know the way clubs normally put up. Best luck to whoever in the final this weekend with, is Newport going to be saying best of luck to, to one lad, Dara? Yeah, best of luck / Keane. Come on, best of luck.
I'd say they kind of have to, really, to be honest with you. But maybe... the fella that's playing with Limerick, you just put that kind of sign over there close to that border and you put the other sign for the tip man maybe in the heart of the club or something like that maybe. But I'm sure it was good old crack around the place. Yeah,
if we have any viewers there from Newport, get the comment in and let us know what the vibe was back there in 2016. The Loud final, I'm sure Ger Brennan will be at this game. RD St. Mary's against Dave Martin and I suppose Colm, what's the full Sam Mulroy? I'm sure he'll be the star turn in this match as well, or at least RD will be looking to shut him down. The Kildare final, Selbridge against Naas. We've already talked about the Donegal finals this weekend.
Shane, an interesting one in Kildare. Micheál McDermott is Selbridge manager, and he
former Clare manager.
Yeah, former Clare manager. And I couldn't tell you all of the clubs, but he's trying to win a 6th county title with a 5th different club in a 5th different county. That's phenomenal. I think it was it Wolf Tones in Meath he was with? But this is going if they were to take down Naas, it would be a 5th county title in a 5th different county, which I even think the 4 he has at the minute is unheard of. I can think of lads that have won in maybe 2 different counties. Maybe like Padjo Whelan will just say, for example, one more Nina won plenty with Burr. I'm sure you can think of other lads like Ken Hogan. Has Ken Hogan won? Ken Hogan won one with Burrs Kilcotton, and he won one with Coolderry. And
he's looking to win a Senior B final or Premier Intermediate final with Laura.
Ken is a good one actually, because Ken has 4 county titles in 2 different counties with 4 different clubs. Maybe there could be another one on top of that. If we were to win one with Laura eventually, that would be another one. But they won one last year, obviously. But to win county titles with 5 different clubs in 5 different counties would be unbelievable.
Yeah, the Armagh final is on this weekend. Clonagale against Crossmaglen Rangers. Like, you can't but be impressed when you look at some of the talents that Crossmaglen have. Like Keane McConville is one that's coming. Like we've seen him probably in the last couple of years ago. He's really good. But like Rian O'Neill, Jamie Clark, Oisin O'Neill, these are serious inter-county level forwards.
Yeah, Jamie, it's always a joy to watch Jamie Clark playing. And he probably, the fact that he's there, he is going to take plenty of attention. But when you have the O'Neills as well, in like potential to light up any game at any level, there's a fair few tools in their arsenal that are going to need to be stopped there. And yeah, you'd fancy them getting over the line, definitely.
Well, Stephen Campbell is going to have to produce a similar performance to what he produced against Clonlara for Clonlara-Crusheen. He was brilliant the last day out, and it took extra time for them to get over the line, 112 to 14 points. So, like, so many tight club games. It's so class to watch these matches. For Mana final, Derry Connolly Harps are against Earn Gales Balik. In the Cavan final, Kingscourt Stars against Gowna, and the Roscommon final, C St. Bridget's meeting Boyle. Like, these are all really, really tight flick of a coin sort of games here.
Yeah, there's a mad one with two of the lads from Gowna, and the names escape me, but I think they were both involved with the Cavan squads at different stages. But two of them were over, I think it was in Spain earlier on this year, where they were within a vicinity that there was a drive-by shooting actually happened while they were there. Because they were, I think it was mentioned in the Anglo-Celt maybe a couple of months ago. But listen, maybe we might chat to them after if they won a county final. Like, Jesus, what a mad thing to be in any vicinity for. Absolutely crazy. But yeah, there's a lot of games, and particularly with conditions changing here, ground's getting really, really heavy. It's hard for teams to really scorch teams. You'd imagine this time of the year, even last Sunday, the surface in Burr was lovely outside of your goal mouths that you were having a pop at. Obviously,
your last throw was flying.
Like the pitches have turned a hell of a lot, even in a week. Like, they're gone really, really soft. It's proper winter conditions here.
Yeah. Has anyone in Burr been unhappy with me bringing that up? Because it's not like I'm taking a shot at the club or anything like that. I just think it's a little unusual to have a county final with the Astro. I understand it. It's not like a county ground whereby you probably have the goal guards on and no one's let in against the goals or whatever. Just everyone's in there poking around all the time. So I understand why it's probably like that.
Yeah, a couple of people were just on saying, what is that ... on about? But listen, there's people on most weeks saying that about stuff you say. So listen, it's par for the course at this stage.
But speaking of the pitches, like the sun is coming down here in Dublin at the moment. But this morning when I had the freshers out training at 7:15, it was fairly lashing, and the pitch, like there was sitting water on the pitches as well. Like, you just wonder how many training sessions are going to be called off because we're at a time of the year where, it's going to be, there's teams out competing for championships. They need every session possible. They don't want to have to train indoor and on Astro if they know on Sunday they're going to have to play in the muck and the SH1T. Like, I remember, like, on the runs with Kula when we were in the depths of winter, and there was a January, maybe, was it 17 or 18? I can't remember. But the snow was so bad, the pitches were so done, that we had to go out to the north side in this sort of dome. It was a soccer type dome, an indoor thing. And just even trying to get the cars out there, and people were like, there was snow everywhere. There was another time we went out to Parnell's and we had to clear off the snow ourselves from the pitch beforehand. There was like a bit of an advertising hoarding. And I remember we were just trying to scoop the snow off the
side. Like the All Blacks.
Yeah, it's a bit of sweeping out the sheds as well, talking about how humble we are as we ram it down everyone's
sweeping
neck.
Out the sheds and passing their gear bags down along a line. If that one catches on, we're in big bother.
Oh God Almighty! Kilkenny intermediate football final last night. Winner plays first round of the Leinster on Sunday. Actually, I think I had those fixtures just emailed out from Leinster GA. Let me just see. I wonder how many Kilkenny football fans are out here. Let's see. So Lisdowney. This is the junior, actually. They're playing Kilbeggan Shamrocks in the Downs on, I think that's Sunday. I'm not seeing any other Kilkenny fixture there.
I thought there was an intermediate fixture there. I did, yeah.
Mullinavat against Ballylinan of Laois.
Okay, yeah, they're obviously the senior winners, so they would have won it in June or whatever. But just on that kind of quick turnaround, I know we talked about it in Monday's show. Like, it is a bit mad, like that St. Joseph's, the Laois champions, are playing 6 days after winning the county final. They're playing Airog on Saturday night away as well. It's mad that Shelmaliers, who won a county title last Sunday. Also, I don't know if you saw the clip going around, but Brian Malone, the old wily codger, that played with Wexford for many moons and is their most capped player. They went a point up in this, like, the very, very start of the 64th minute against Castletown the other day, and the goalkeeper went to take the kick out, and he wrapped the two arms around him. He was playing full forward, wrapped the two arms around him, dragged him to the ground. And listen, until the rules change, lads will continue to do that. But that was the difference between Castletown having a really good base for a quick kick out and getting to, and basically Shelmalier has been able to sit back and organise. So he'd gladly take the yellow or whatever was going there. I don't know what he got, but they were able to hold on and win the game. And as well as that, we didn't mention the Monday show, Owen O'Gara actually came on for Shelmaliers, and he didn't have a huge bearing on the game, but he had a huge bearing on the semi-final where he came on against Killenairn and got 1-2 as they came from 7 down. They had a good run in Leinster a couple of years ago, and I know they're playing only a week later, but they'll be hoping to go on a good run again.
So again, coming back to these cynical fouls equals penalties, would Brian Malone have done that rugby tackle on the goalie if a penalty was the outcome?
Not Never. A chance, or even a 30-metre free or whatever. No way would he have had. Not a hope. Not a chance.
And the only reason he's doing it is to try and stop the opposition scoring. So the only cure for it is to present the opposition with a handy score if you do it.
Yeah, but like, listen, it's the same when Costello kicked the ball off David Clark's tee. It's been in an All-Ireland final a couple of years ago. It's been done several times. I remember Offaly were trying to stay in Division 3, and Shane Tierney kicked the ball off the Sligo tee when they went 1 up. He kicked the ball about 70 yards away. Lads,
well, like, if we're serious about getting rid of it, like, a yellow card is never going to make a difference. A black card is never going to make a difference in the last second. It will only ever happen in the last minute or two of a game. It'll only ever happen when a team wants to ensure they don't score. So if you want to make sure it never happens again, penalty, yellow card. And it's over. It's done.
Or depending on where it happens, maybe even just a free in the middle of the D or the edge of the D or something like that. But like, don't get me wrong, I don't really have an issue with lads doing this. If I was manager of the team, you can say it's bad sportsmanship or whatever, but until the rules change, you're using the rules to your benefit, and that's what good teams have been doing since rules were invented.
But like what you're saying, free on the D, that's kind of half a cure. Let's go the entire way whereby you would never dream of doing this. That's why a rule has to be over the top. It has to be over the top, so it's a real deterrent. And you're like, not a hope in hell am I going to do that. It's the same with the rugby tackles anywhere on the pitch. Not a hope in hell am I ever going to try it, because I know it's a disaster. We're going to concede a goal from a penalty, and we're going to concede a yellow card. And it just actually lightens the amount of work for a referee. He doesn't have to worry about black card. Oh, is your man coming back on here now? Oh, does he come back on for extra time? All this crap. It's gone straight away. Penalty, take it, score it, on you go.
Leave him on and let him watch the penalty.
Yeah. Crack Lady Arch says, Shane, what are your early impressions of the new hand pass rule in practice? Don't tell us you're getting behind this change. I'm on the fence. I used to dismiss it out of hand, but having watched it, the referees have been delighted in the couple of Freshers games I've seen it in, because they don't have to worry about throws anymore. They don't happen. Fair enough, the odd hand pass happens still because, the traditional hand pass, because players forget about it, and you don't criticize the players because it's just been thrust upon them. But there's merit to it. I think there's going to be a lot of just putting the ball back down the stick and quickly hand passing straight off it. And I don't know how much of a difference it's going to make, but it will eliminate the throw.
But what about for your championship? The rules are as normal, correct?
No, we don't know for sure yet.
Oh, that's hardly ideal.
No, it's not, because and I was chatting with Maurice Brosnan of the Examiner just on X there a little while ago, because he had done a piece about it, and I replied to him, and he was saying, "Have you had much of a chance to prepare for it?" And I'm like, "Well, no, because lads only just entered college, and the first couple of weeks you're doing trials." And then there's guys who are still involved with their clubs, and we're previewing club stuff all the time. So there's players still involved. So how much opportunity do you have to coach them on all these different things? It'd be hugely unfair to expect players to be able to adapt to it straight away, even though they're doing quite well at it. And it's so different to how would this operate at inter-county level, for example, once teams have had 9 months of training collectively all the time to see, what we're seeing in a freshers trial won't reflect whatever we see for teams that are fully prepared after months and months of working on it.
Is it a bit of a two fingers to the freshers competitions that it's in the league at the minute, and yeah, it could be in for championship, but that's not confirmed. That you could just be going back to normal rules for the championship, which is hardly exactly ideal preparation. That's the most likely thing to happen, I would imagine, that we go back to normal rules.
But then again, you have to ask, how much do they care about the freshers? I mean, maybe they do, maybe they don't. I mean, the people who coordinate these things, and they're just like, look, we'll see how it goes there another few weeks, or the freshers is grand, like. So yeah, I do think it's not ideal for the freshers, because these lads are trying to impress. They're training in the dirt, and all that kind of stuff. And they've played one way their whole life, and all of a sudden they're told to change something fundamental that may not be staying there. So I don't know. I'm not mad on it, I have to be honest.
Yeah. Well, it's like when you don't know whether it's staying in for the championship or not. Like, at the end of the day, you are trying to prepare your team as best as possible for a championship, where you will be judged on your results in championship. But if some fundamental rules could or could not be changing for championship, that's a bit of a disaster. So, and I don't know. I hadn't really thought too much about it, just been in for the leagues and not been in for the championship. But you could just end up throwing the rules out the window and just going back to what you normally do. So it's a bit, I don't know. I wouldn't be mad about it. Yeah,
look, I'm not going to totally dismiss it, but I'm not totally gone on the way it's been done. But I know if it's going to be trialed, it has to be trialed somewhere. The Waterford semi-finals, they're also on. The Nair against Kilross and Rathcormac will meet on Rin. And then the Leinster Club Senior Football Championship round 1 starts with a whimper. No one in the country knows about it, unless you're watching our game. Éireog of Carlow will meet St. Joseph's of Laois, and St. Joseph's just probably drying out after winning their county championship at the weekend. Tullamore will meet Summerhill of Meath, and St. Lomans, they're up against Shelmaliers, who, like St. Joseph's, will just be drying out. There's been no massive launch. There's no fanfare. And I saw Colin Parkinson tweeting about it. Could we not coordinate all county championships to finish at the same time, so we could actually transition from county stages are over, big launch for Leinster and the other provincials, and here we go.
You said there's been no massive launch. There's been no launch whatsoever. It's pathetic how it's been organised, or not organised, really. Teams are just falling in upon these championships now. It's crazy, really. And even just the teams, the fact that some teams are playing a week later, or some teams are playing 6 days later. I was chatting to Darragh O'Sullivan, the Ballygunner manager, yesterday, and just doing a piece for the weekend on teams turning out quickly after winning a championship. And he said, I think it was in 1992, Ballygunner hadn't won a title in a long time, and they won a county title on the Saturday. It could have been after a replay, and had to travel to play 6 Mile Bridge on a bus the next day. And he said there were owl fellas going up to the disco, pulling lads out of the disco, and this kind of crack is just mad. Needless to say that they lost the next day, but it's just crazy how these kind of things happen, really. And it's crazy how, like, I just don't understand from a provincial council point of view. Surely you're trying to promote the games as much as possible to get as many people at them and get as much coverage about them. Maybe they just think that people from Lomans or people from Shelmaliers are just going to go to the games, but surely put them out front and centre. Like, I remember being at a launch in 2016, I think it was. It was 2016 for the Leinster Hurling Championship, and there was all representatives there, and you get to chat to them all, and it builds it up a bit or whatever. And in fairness to the sponsors of the club championships, the provincial and All Irelands, they do big up the games coming up to them, and there's lots of coverage around them, but there's zero coverage at the minute around the provincial councils.
Yeah, some crack. When I was rolled out by Coola through those media launches, I could see the faces drop on the likes of Conor McKeown from the Indo and a few more when I came out. No, I enjoyed that, the look at his face. Let's see. I think that's it. That's it. We'll leave it at that, Michael, will we?
Yeah. A good weekend ahead. As I said, the game I'm really looking at, apart from the Clare final, is that Dublin Senior Football final, and I wonder, will Crokes' 3-in-a-row bid and their reign in Dublin come to an end? Be interesting to see.
Yeah. Okay. Well, look, we'll see you all again on Monday. Enjoy the weekend, the GA, and we'll chat to you then.
Cheers, Shane.